Hello, and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this.
It really is the final part of our Steve McClaren Odyssey. We're rounding off with England taking it to the final two games of qualification. Let's hope for clear skies and clear sailing for Steve and his men as we conclude everything McClaren.
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me.
We're nearly there. The end is in sight. Will it be a good end? Will it be a succession sort of this is a good ending, but also it's a bad ending? Will it be really positive? Will it be a bit of a damp squib, perhaps?
It's hard to know, is it? Well, actually, no. We know exactly how it ends for everything, but it's how we're going to end it. It's like one of those documentaries where, all right, we know what happened. Everyone died at the end. No one's alive. Who knows? But we've got to bring it to life now. We've got to now go, right, what really was the ending, and is it as we all kind of remember it as well?
Yeah. I think damp squib, which came out of my mouth there, that's a good one. And everyone dies from yours. I think we've
Yeah.
kind of, we could probably leave it there.
Yeah. See you, everyone. That's the shortest one we've ever done, unless we've done one by mistake.
Well, this is definitely the longest sort of journey we've undertaken. So, where are we at the moment as we head into the final push, the final stretch?
We are basically rounding off McClaren. So he's been appointed. We've covered that in depth. He had a okay start, pretty bad middle, and when we kind of left him and his team, he'd just gone through their awkward middle period, but then starting to settle down, found a regular team, and Steve's lads were back on track with a 3 consecutive home wins, meaning qualification for Euro 2008 was in their own hands by this point. So they're kind of like, what was everyone so worried about? England just qualify for this shit. And
Mm,
unlike everyone else, no matter what happens, and we can even have Steve McClaren in charge, and he's only
yeah.
ever had one job.
Very good point. As you mentioned at the top there, we're looking at the final two games. We're going down to the wire in this Euro 2008 qualification campaign. That's been, ups and downs is a general term, but there's been so many downs, and the ups are only relative to the downs almost. There's never been like
Yeah.
an unbridled up.
It always comes with something else, doesn't it? There's always like something just round the corner to go, because you never get too much like, wow, this England are really hitting their stride here. They are everything we ever wanted in England inside. I think McLaren at one point used to talked about like one of English performances. And I
Yeah,
don't think we even get that during this period of just like something to be proud of.
yeah,
But the lows have been like kind of like nothing I remember up to this point being an England fan. And just like I think we touched on it before as well, like the pure hatred that started to come through for the England national team was just nothing like I'd ever seen before. And I think it kind of that's where people are very quick to go back to that now these days, I think. But this is like the first time I remember seeing people like furious at games. And this is kind of before social media really takes off and everyone's just furious about everything. But this was the start of like at games, people are pissed off.
yeah. We've seen a lot of footage of that pissed offness. Away games, wet and windy Wednesday nights in bloody I don't know where in
Stonier or something like that.
yeah, yeah, and they really have underperformed. One of the key narratives throughout, I guess, just sort of recap as we head into the final stretch. I think one of the key narratives throughout has been the David Beckham. McLaren shat on his legacy, then had to bring him back. That's crucial. We've also had the sort of Rolodex of championship level strikers getting a tryout. We've had all sorts of captaincy issues and issues at the back, goalkeepers as well.
Yeah, that keeps rearing its head, doesn't it? I was thinking about this in McLaren because on paper you look at a lot of that England team we've covered so far with your Gerrards, Lampards, Rooney. The defense is all pretty much there from what you say. It's been one of their best ever defenses. It's kind of like all the pieces are there, but there's just something really wrong. and like quite off-putting. Like McClaren, it's a bit like, you know, like Wes Anderson. Like he gets like these brilliant actors, and he basically just turns them into robots for his films.
Yeah.
And he's just like, you are going to say this dialogue in this most boring way possible, but somehow it's still brilliant. Like I love Wes Anderson films, and they look so amazing, and all the actors are just like boiled down to just saying lines at each other with no expression. This is kind of what this is with England, but there's just no beauty about it at all. It's just all taking place on these in like we say, like Israel, Russia, Croatia, like Estonia, and I'm assuming without looking, Andorra was in there as well. It's like if he was
Probably.
doing like some sort of like awful horror film from the 50s with no color.
Yeah. Yeah. It has been horror-esque so far, but maybe there's a happy ending in sight, as we say. We're down to the wire then, 2 games to go. And it starts. This doesn't give you much hope for a happy ending, does it? It starts with Russia away. Russia away. Can you believe it?
The ultimate, isn't it? Like this will test you.
Yeah.
You're going like it's like a Rocky film. You're going to Russia to fight.
This is 4 days after our previous game, which was against Estonia. I think Wayne Rooney got a goal in that and, you know, helped contribute towards a win. Maybe even Michael Owen, because didn't we leave it and he was basically resurrecting the ghost of Euro 2004?
Yeah, there was like McClaren had managed to settle on a team finally, and you know Owen was back here. I think Ferdinand was playing again, and he just got a team settled. And you thought, right, this is the right thing to do now. And yeah, England, Rooney especially had kind of played all right in that game, got himself back on the score sheet. And you're thinking, okay, settled team now. Now you go to Russia, and one of the problems that comes with this game is that it's 4 days after that Estonia game, so you're thinking, right, on a high, great, really tough away game now. And England lose their left back in Ashley Cole during that Estonia game as well, which means Julian Lescott, I think playing maybe only his second game for England, comes in at left back. I mean, hardly ideal circumstances for a man who didn't really play left back.
No.
Another thing under McClaren, just picking players at fullback who didn't want to be there. Jamie Carragher being testament to that.
Yeah, the Carragher Beckham right hand side axis was a real high point of pace and you know incision. The group at this stage going into this game is so tight. We're 3 points behind Croatia, 5 points ahead of Russia. But Russia do have a game in hand over England. Israel also, they're on 17 points compared to Russia's 18, England's 23, and Croatia's 26. They're actually not out of contention, really. And yeah, they've played the same amount of games as England, but it's kind of all there and up for grabs. If we just have a little look at Russia as well, starting, I guess, with their manager, who I think was mentioned as potentially wanting to be one of the England candidates early on.
Yeah,
didn't he have 3 other jobs or something?
Yeah. I think he was when he was. This is Gus Hiddink, so he was when he was PSV manager, and he was also the manager of Australia at the time. And his agent had been linking him with England, saying, "Well, the FA have called, so we'll be interested." And it's like, you can't have 2 international jobs. That's quite mad. So I'm assuming he was ready to give up the Socceroos and come and join England, but he never made that long short list that the FA had so expertly put up for a long time. But Hiddink came into, I think he got over that disappointment by then becoming Russia manager. So I think he was like his time with Australia was done, and he comes in and inherits like a really good Russia team as well. They've been beaten by England 3-0 at Wembley a few games previous. But there is kind of quite a good team under the belly there. So yeah, Chelsea's Zirkov, who played at left back, left wing. Everton's Bilyanet-Dinov. Again, I've definitely butchered that, but you kind of just remember how it sounded. I remember him being a good player, actually. And I remember there was a lad at a university I went to who was an Everton fan. And he got the winger for Russia, they got him on the back of his shirt because he said it was the exact same money to get that on the back of his shirt as it was to get Joe on the back of his shirt, which is 2 letters. So he was like, "Yeah, I'm taking that definitely." Not
even 3 letters, Joe.
Yeah, just the 2 there, and also Arsenal's Andrei Arshavin, who very pleasing to say there, who made an impact immediately on the Premier League, scoring 4 goals at Anfield at an early appearance. One of those where you were like, shit, Arsenal may have just signed one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, yeah. He was an absolute god for me on PES 2010. The Arsenal team were my favourite to play with on that one, and oh my god, he was. It was like they just transferred Messi's stats over to him. It was
Yeah,
beautiful.
because I guess you also had like Walcott around that time as well, which was just pace down that
Pace.
right hand side.
Exactly, exactly. Um, so we kind of outlined the picture of the group, but let's focus in on England. If England win, they go through. If they draw, it's still well in their hands with the final game against Croatia to come. But a loss in Mother Russia and qualification would no longer depend only on England's results. They'd be taking it out of their hands, as the saying goes.
hmm
Yeah. This game kicked off at 4 p.m. What are your thoughts on a 4 p.m. international kickoff away in Russia?
Not great outside of a tournament. I think it's just really odd that this was even happening at 4 o'clock. Like, you just don't feel like it had happened today. It happened like a lot later in Russia, but you feel like to be there for like an English audience or like a wider audience. But I think it's just still the days of just like, look, we just get the game played, will you? Like, I don't
Yeah.
care if you've got to get up early. I don't care if you're at work or at school, whatever. You just get on with it, will you? We haven't got time to do all this.
Russia's only 2 hours ahead of the UK as well. So they could have done it at 6 o'clock their time, 8 o'clock our time.
I think it was from memory. It may have been like a midweek game as well. So it was like 4 p.m. on like a Wednesday or something. Like if you're an England fan, like that's pretty great for nipping to the pub.
Yeah.
But it's just like wow, like I'm all right. I've just got to do my commute while England are like playing a game.
It's
Like it
not
doesn't
even
feel
like,
right.
yeah. And what makes it worse is it's a big game, but it's not the big game. It's not like, right, everyone's just leaving early because this is so huge.
Yeah, like a
It's
tournament where it's just like, right, everyone, if you want to go watch England, just go. This is like, well, can I go watch a qualifier away in Russia? I was like, of course you can't. You've got that report to do, you idiot.
So do they qualify if they win? No, but well, yeah, they do, but it might not be in their
Yes.
own hands. Are they gonna win? No, I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know. Have you heard of Steve McClaren?
Let me fill you in. Well, they can direct them to this podcast. Les Scott, as we mentioned earlier, starting in place of Ashley Colwood, hit the bar early on. Good start for him, but it was Wayne Rooney who wasted no time smashing England into the lead with a brilliant volley past the Russian goalkeeper, following a great flick on from Michael Owen. What were you worried about?
Yeah, I remember being at university, as I mentioned at this time, on a bus in Liverpool. So I think I must have been coming back from town to where I lived. And the game was on at the time. And I've just got this, it may be like a false memory, but I remember being on the bus and watching the Rooney goal on my phone. But this would have been, I would say, like 2007, 2008.
That would
So I
have been
don't
bad
really
form.
remember how good your phone would be at that point. I
No,
feel like I must have like been on it on, I was going to say Facebook, like a Facebook group, but could you even get phones with Facebook on at that point?
I don't know. Maybe it's a false flag.
I'm just so confused. But I remember, again, it may be a false memory, watching the goal on my phone while on a bus going, yes, England are winning. Rooney scored. We're all going through now. It's what we all worried about.
Didn't you go to uni in Liverpool?
I did, yes.
So they wouldn't have took nicely to you saying we on that bus, would they? They famously don't like the England team.
I think it wasn't as bad back here for some reason. Like you still like when England games were on, loads of people still went to the pubs, but like maybe there was just something that over time they just see themselves as not English. Like a lot of like a friend of mine, the Everton fan, he would consider himself. I think he said that he was English, but he was like, I'm not European. I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
this is really confusing now. Like I don't really know what you're getting out of this, and it wasn't like a Brexit thing, which it would become like years later on. But it was like, well, where's England? But it's in Europe. Well, you're European then, aren't you? Like, like where you literally you're born.
I know, yeah. Pre-Brexit, eh? We carry on. There was a massive chance in the game for Steven Gerrard, who was actually captain in John Terry's continued absence. Early in the second half, this was. Gerrard would somehow miss a shot from about 7 yards out following a free kick. England could really have done with that goal to kind of wrap up the points and wrap up the qualification, really. What happened in turn was that Russia decided it was their turn to push. They would keep pushing until they were awarded a penalty thanks to a foul by Wayne Rooney, who was backtracking on the left-hand side of the penalty area when he made the tackle. Is it a bit of a sliding tackle, is it? What have we got here?
It's kind of like a bundling one, really. Like Rooney's never going to do it like too beautifully, is he? It's a really weird one because on replay, it's like 90% clear the contact was outside the area on the Russian player. And it's kind of like another sliding doors moment of, Steven Gerrard missing like a really good chance at the back post. It just kind of falls to him to side foot in, and he puts it wide, and then almost straight away, Russia go at the other end and get this penalty. And it's just one of those real gut punches of just like the whole game just totally changes. The only way it could change more is if like you were down to 10 men from that or something. And it was, a real kick in the gut. But it was it didn't look like it was in the box on lots of replays I kind of watched from back in the time. But yeah, Russia have a penalty, and Roman Pavlyuchenko on as a sub minutes earlier equalised for Russia on the 69th minute and then put them ahead 4 minutes later.
That's what we were worried about.
Yeah, that was the problem, wasn't it, Pavlyuchenko? I remember him being an absolute git for me on Football Manager around this time. I think I'd taken like the Spurs job, and I think he was at Spurs around this. It was around this period, and he was one of those gits that just came when you brought him on. He'd score, but he'd score useless goals. So you'd be like 3-1 down, and he'd score one, and then he'd be like, "Well, I've had a good game." I was like, "Well, you've missed quite a few here as well, so I'm still not impressed with you." But that's just like my first memory of him. But I always remember him being like in real world a very good player.
Yeah,
I think this was just an emerging point for him.
And also, we kind of didn't gloss over it there, but he gitted England out, didn't he? 2 goals in flipping 4 minutes. What happened with the second one was another error from Paul Robinson. He saved the shot from outside the area. Doesn't sound like an error to me, but he put it right into the path of Pavlyuchenko. So England's goalkeeping curse in this qualification campaign has struck again. These goalkeepers cannot handle being sort of, I don't know. I was going to say on foreign soil, but there's been some at Wembley as well. It's just such a bloody shit show. What's up with them?
Goalkeepers. It's one goalkeeper. it's Paul Robinson just going through like a massive crisis of confidence around this period, and like I say, like a real disaster for Robinson. This was his 3rd high-profile error for England in the campaign alone,
Right.
And this game would actually be his last for England ever, after Steve McClaren lost faith for him and would not play him again.
Maybe I got him mixed up with another keeper who makes an error. I don't know. Yeah, disaster really. And McClaren kind of we've talked about his lack of, I don't know what the word is, but pace, I guess.
Spark as well. Just kind of like you've putting down a team on paper and just going, yep, that'll do. And there just doesn't seem to be much else about it really. Of like, yeah, all those players look like they should be good there.
Yeah. He goes for a triple substitution in response to this, bringing on Lampard, Downing, and Crouch. Probably Crouch at centre back, Lampard left mid, and Downing up top, knowing the way this tournament's gone so far, this qualification, I should say. But yeah, to no avail. It's a disaster. It is an absolute disaster. As you say, it's the end of the line for Paul Robinson, and potentially the end of the line for England's qualification, because it looks as though, Russia have to play Israel, and Russia would probably be the favourites for that. You don't want to rely on other teams to do your work for you, but now we really do have to.
And this was the first time in this qualification you were just like, shit, this may not happen.
Yeah.
Like throughout everything else, there was always like, all right, the teams England have got to play. There's a lot of games left at Wembley. They'll get through some of them, and there's always a chance we'll get back. But this was the first time where you were just like, there's something wrong here. This could go massively wrong. And now out of England's hands, and they had to pray for a miracle, because even if they beat Croatia at home, they still may not qualify for the Euros. And what better way? Just get your heads down, then a nice friendly in Austria straight after this.
Why did we need that? Oh my God. Is it because it's a IA team at the end, as in Russia and Croatia?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? And we'd have to ask Steve for this, but basically, because it was used as a warm-up game for the Croatia match, which was the last one in qualifying, which they won 1-0 thanks to Peter Crouch. Sounds pretty standard, but all the other teams now would play each other in this period or in England's group. And there was a nice twist in the tail for England on this side as well, getting them back in the driving seat.
Yeah. Sorry, I got distracted there. We'll get to that. I'm looking at this Austria game. It's a good chance for Scott Carson, who is given the kind of nod in goal, but some great names in the Austria team. Goalkeeper Jürgen Macho,
Macho, yeah.
with defenders Georgi Garrix, Marcus Weissenberger's in there, Frankie Schmiemer, and
Frankie Schmiemer.
Joachim Standfest. As well, on the bench, Alex
The
Manninger.
one who played for Arsenal?
It must be. He must have been about 80 at that point, right?
I always remember he came in for like when they were going for the league that year with Man United. I think David Seaman, wasn't it him that he was injured and Manninger came in and played really well for them?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There was another thing of note in that game as well. The aforementioned Macho, Jurgen Macho, was in a bit of a collision with Peter Crouch, ended up swallowing his tongue during the game, and they all threatened to turn a little bit grim for a second, but he's a macho man. He's a macho man. Michael Owen also got injured when stumbling after taking a shot on 31 minutes.
Just you imagine the sound that his hamstrings must have made after that. After that, just boing, just gone.
Yeah, nightmare.
I mean, why? Do you surely know that he is like so brittle at this point? Like, why are you even bothering playing him in this? I know if you're like, oh, well, we're going to set up for this, and maybe how we're going to set up in the final game with Croatia as well. But you just don't take that chance with Michael Owen. Like, he should know by this point. He's just about got him bandaged up and back out there, scoring goals again. It's like, yeah, trip to Austria for you.
That was Scott Carson's first cap as well. But anyway, you mentioned England were praying for a miracle as they headed into that friendly. I don't know how to explain this to you, Nick, but miracles do happen. And they can happen.
Miracles.
Absolutely. Russia went to Israel in their next qualification game and lost 2-1 to a last-minute goal. Also, maybe just as importantly, Macedonia beat Croatia at home, meaning Croatia was still only 3 points ahead of England. So basically, I think, I'm trying to piece it together. What's happened is England are the same distance off Croatia, but they're closer to all the other teams around them.
Yeah.
But they have the game against Croatia where they could maybe usurp them.
Yeah, so England still haven't qualified yet, even though Croatia have qualified, but they could still finish above Croatia, but they could also still not qualify for the Euros. And it's quite unlucky, really, with these round of fixtures. Unfortunately for Israel, they're now out, even though they just beat Russia. So they're kind of closer to Russia, but because England and Russia and Croatia, I think England and Croatia have got to play each other, they're guaranteed points that takes them above Israel.
Yeah.
And then they can't get above, even if they got above Russia, that wouldn't be in the qualification. So really good in for them. I can't really say I'm an expert on Israeli football, but they can't have gotten closer to qualifying for an international tournament than that before, really.
No. There are some Israeli football experts in the BBC Match of the Day studio as we enter the Last Chance Saloon. I've got myself a little gin and tonic here. It's a sunny day. I doubt anybody would be drinking such cheery drinks though in this Last Chance Saloon. I think it's going to be bitters and shots of vodka.
Yeah, on the Wednesday, the 21st of November, 2007, this is England v Croatia this really is do or die for England by this point, and it's a game I've always wanted to cover in itself because we've done like the saga to get here, but this in itself I'm glad we've got a bit of time to look at this because it's just batshit from start to finish, and loads of stuff I forgot as well, especially the coverage of it. The coverage of it was a joy to watch again, really.
It starts the Match of the Day studio, and we see Gary Lineker, who I think at this point is probably just about ready to step into the role of the undisputed head of the table when it comes to English football coverage. He looks a bit young, but he looks a bit nervy. He's kind of moving his head quite a lot. He's very, very passionate. And he says, in his cheeky way, he's got a cheeky way, hasn't he? And he says, in his cheeky way, this game was always going to count. And I thought, well, it shouldn't. It didn't have to.
Yes, we don't all have to worry about that, do we? But yeah, it's a bit of a throwback to when he's a lot more youthful looking. I remember on the thumbnail for this, because I think you can watch this whole game on YouTube. It's him kind of like on his side,
Yeah.
looking like one of the guys from Men Behaving Badly, just like, oh, what's gonna happen here? But
He's not
yeah,
like lying on his side. He
no,
just
but he's
kind
kind
of
of like his
arched
body's
to the
kind of
side.
the thing is though, you've seen the thumbnail and you know exactly that he's arched to how he's arched to the side, just like, oh, what are we gonna do here?
Yeah,
It's all
exactly.
it's all a bit weird. But yeah, just before this as well, the match of the day tune starts, and it feels far too like jovial for this big occasion. It's
Yeah.
just like we should just be doing like Hans Zimmer, like Inception, like bong. Like we should be doing that, like coming into this with like shots of McClaren in the team, and it may be the greatest tune ever written, but it's not appropriate for the despair that is about to happen here.
It starts with Steve McClaren talking about the Macedonia game at home. I think we've mentioned this as we've gone through the Odyssey so far. But the recap in that saying we're looking for a game. Fuck. But the recap that saying we're looking for an English performance, a performance of pride, passion, attitude, and character. And when it says character, it cuts to a picture of John Terry.
Oh, he's a character, isn't he?
He's a
And
big
it's like,
character.
and that game ends up being a 0-0 draw with Macedonia at home.
Yeah,
So
they kind of leave that bit out. It's like that's a good soundbite for tonight, but let's not actually reference the context of, of when it was said, because
yeah,
it still stands.
they just falsely drop it in, don't they? Or just like it's been used from the wrong film or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
And
well,
if you
actually, that's Rocky too. I've mentioned another Rocky film here. I don't know why, but yeah, it's
exactly,
like a false quote.
there is a lot, like knowing what we know now about this game. There's a lot of foreboding in this video. The show Robertson's error against Croatia, and the commentator going, "That is the worst goal you will ever see England concede," as if to say that can't happen again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's a bit. I think we may have said at the time, like it's just an incredibly unlucky goal, Robinson's one, because it bobbles just directly over his foot, and yeah, it's Gary Neville. It's not really his fault either that he puts the ball like towards Robinson that's going into the goal. It's just like you don't really see it anymore because pitches are never that bad again.
Yeah.
But there was a few like in the start of the Premier League era, which would just like fly over a keeper's head when they'd just be rolling into his arms. And I think in terms of like the worst goal you'll ever see conceded, I remember when we did the Germany 2010 game in the World Cup, and all I remember is like the ball just being hoofed down pitch and every single defender fucking up whatever they were supposed to be doing. And then it was like, oh, closers in, brilliant. Like I
Yeah,
know that's not happened
I
yet.
was
You know,
gonna
that's
say.
it's a couple of years away, but my money, that's the worst one I can remember seeing England concede.
Yeah, a bit of mitigation is that it hadn't happened yet, so the commentator wasn't to know.
I'm just saying this is my opinion. I'm sure if we look back, there are worse goals than that Robinson one to concede as well. Like
I reckon
pre
if we went
this.
like deep into the 80s, we'd probably see some really bad as well. But the Germany one's a good shout, as you say. Everyone cocks up along the way.
Mm.
So there's also a big focus in this montage. You know, the Russia versus Israel game has kind of crept its way into this montage about England's qualification journey. England are in full on Luxembourg from Mike Bassett. They're full on that mode. Pubs are going. It's like the scenes you see now that they're so desperate to point of like Box Park and things like that. Pubs going wild. Commentators, English commentators, screaming with delight when Israel score the winner.
Like they're even like covering the game. Like why have we got English commentators over the top of the game? That's what I really don't understand. It's like if like a team are trying to like stay up and it like depends on like someone else's result and they are going insane. And I understand it was like a big moment to get England to this point where it's back in their hands. But honestly, it's like they're almost taking credit for it, just like, oh, did you see what our lads did out there? Like it's like they're part of the team, like Israel.
Yeah. Part of the team as well. There's a few reactions of England players kind of put in there. Joe Cole, it was like watching a game as a fan. Peter Crouch, it was a difficult one to watch. Our leader, Steve McClaren, with a huge grin, says it was unbelievable. And really, this should not be part of the picture.
No, it's really that for them to be so giddy and kind of like far too giddy as well. Like I don't think you get that these days about like players openly just coming out by going, did us a favor there, didn't they? And then now we're back. Now we're back doing this. Like you just wouldn't get it either. Even this is like quite naive how much they're talking about it.
I almost think they're trying to. Naive's a good word. I think they're trying to play into a theory that we're meant to be there, and at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it'll be all right on the night, so to speak. We'll get there because look at this. This is a miracle that's happened. How are we not going to get there? This is all just part of the story, which is England qualifying.
It's destiny. It's destiny. We always get there. This was just one of the ways we've managed to get there this time.
We'll laugh about it when we lift the trophy.
Yeah. Imagine how close we came. And it was little old Israel who did the job for England.
Yeah, little old Israel did their bit, but it's now time for England to play their part. A draw or better, and we qualify. Win by more than 2, and we top the group. But the lads in the studio can't let it lie there when it comes to Russia and Israel, because we see further highlights of the game. And it's also noticeable that Russia had 2 major chances to score in the 89th minute with the score at 2-1 that somehow just didn't go in. It is meant to be.
It's meant to be, and it's meant to be this panel as well. The panel is star-studded for the period as well, isn't it? We've got Ian Wright, Alan Hansen, and Alan Shearer. This is very early Shearer and Wright kind of pundits as well. Alan Hansen's been doing it years. I'm shocked he's even still doing it at this point here that we're covering. I thought he'd retired by this point.
Yeah, Shearer kind of pre the video of him celebrating at the Russia 2018 World Cup. Obviously quite a long way pre that.
Far too much hair. Far too much hair. I'll get on to what he looks like a bit later as well. But at this point, it is Alan Shearer who is just about still playing, maybe just retired.
Maybe. I feel like the aforementioned 2018 World Cup thing is where it all changed for him as a pundit. I kind of don't mind him so much these days, but he is not the most exciting, fun chap, is he?
No, I think when he first started, he was terrible as a pundit because it was just say what you see. But I think you could tell he did work hard on it, didn't he? And he did go out and be like, I need to do my research properly on this as well. Yeah, he was 2006, Alan Shearer retired. So he's still mulling about, not quite gotten Newcastle relegated yet, but he's still around in the picture, just talking all things Geordie.
And the pundits are talking all things McClaren by now. They're going to let the Russia game rest for a moment. And they're talking about the England lineup. Ian Wright says there's been a lot of talk about how England are putting out a defensive lineup to better support Peter Crouch as the lone striker. But Wright says that's not really the case. He believes that there's a good few players on that pitch who are given a license to attack, so kind of more attacking fullbacks than fullbacks.
Yeah, I think he tries to be like, actually, we've got a lot more players attacking than you'd think, even though we've only got one striker. It's kind of like, oh, these guys will become forwards, and you throw more people forward and all that, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, in theory, yes, but England have switched from a 4-4-2, which was doing perfectly well for them, to a 4-5-1 due to seemingly Michael Owen being injured. There's no Wayne Rooney either. We'll get onto the lineups like in a little bit as well, but it is a ragtag bunch of England players that are like going to take the field here, but it's fine. There's no problem according to the pundits.
They're going to take to the field, but the field is wet. And not for the first time on this podcast, all attention turns to the weather. It is a bad, grim night, as it was at the start of McClaren's reign at Old Trafford, where England got the win against Greece, I believe that was. Alan Hansen jokes, that's great for the England goalkeeper, isn't it? One mistake and you're out, he says regarding the wet pitch.
Yeah, like it's amazing how much they talk about the pitch like it's the main character in all this.
Yeah,
they spend so much time on it, and you just think like, well, what was the problem? And the problem was that, as Lineker jokes, that's what happens when you let that American football on the pitch. And I'm just like, I bet Lineker loves the NFL now. Yeah. I bet he goes every year when it's at Tottenham or wherever it's held
with his sons.
Yeah, definitely.
How much would he love a picture with Tom Brady?
Oh yeah, definitely. All of his gear as well. I couldn't really name you many teams, but I was just like, oh, he's a big Steelbacks fan, isn't Lineker? Like he just picks like a fucking random team,
wearing them transparent frames glasses.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, they'd been an NFL, which again I thought this was way too early for an NFL game to be played at Wembley. Like
Yeah,
Wembley's just opened and they're already hawking it out to the NFL as well.
I know, I know. Well, they need to claw that money back. We take another trip down memory lane now. A package of England's final game qualifying moments. There are quite a few of these actually. When you look back, we get Beckham versus Greece, that last minute free kick to send us to the World Cup. Hoddle's boys' night in Rome of Three Lions fame, and more, are all set to the classic strains of Barry from EastEnders' number one hit, "Something Inside So Strong."
I thought you were going to give us a rendition of that then.
Did you? No, no. Yeah, we also get the biggest one of all, the best of these final night qualification games, that Poland game from 1973. We get that gets its own sort of treatment. Ian Wright says that as a 10-year-old, he couldn't understand why people were upset because England played brilliantly that night. I forget the keeper's name now, Tomaszewski.
Tomaszewski, yes, in one of our early episodes, which I still love listening to. Actually, that one, the Tomaszewski game, and it's funny. Like it's like Ian Wright's almost gone like the story of Pele when Brazil lost the World Cup final, and he said to his dad, "Don't worry, I'll go out there and win one," and it was just like, "Yeah, all right, whatever, you little idiot."
Yeah.
And like, you can imagine like, Ian Wright going like full on, like, "Don't worry, Dad, I'll get us to a World Cup one day, and I'll be left out by some bastard called Glenn Hoddle, and I'll never get to go, even though I'm screaming on the pitch, 'Take me, Glenn.'"
The package for the Poland game is backed by the strains of James Blunt's 1973. This would have been around the sort of Gavin and Stacey era. I feel I'm getting big Uncle Bryn vibes from the song selection there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And obviously 1973 because that's the year it was, but it's just kind of like, wow, that's perfect. And it would have been this time that Blunt would have been massive.
Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know what his connection is with 1973 and why he'd say it, but it's weird seeing Ian Wright like this as well. Like Ian Wright in the modern day has now entered that period where he looks weird without glasses. So seeing him here with just kind of like fresh faced and sans glasses,
And
it's just really weird. It's just like, oh, I don't like this at all. Again, Shearer's hair. I mean, Hanson, I haven't seen him for years, but like he never like changed from the moment he went on to be a pundit, really.
I just one for us, I guess. The picture of Ian Wright you've got on the notes, it kind of looks like he's squinting and could do with some glasses. It's like he's struggling to see something. Maybe it's all the rain.
He's just looking at Gary Lineker, just going, "Oh, a bit fuzzy. Oh, could been putting that eye check off for a little while."
Is he hench? I can't make it if he's hench or not. It's time to hear from the main man at this point, Steve McClaren. The first question McClaren is asked is, "What's happened to your support of Paul Robinson?" Almost a bit like, just a quick one. I've noticed that you've dropped Paul Robinson, but before you said that you really liked him. So what's happened there? Steve McClaren's answer is, "I think just events. Things have happened in previous games."
Events such as the press wanted him out, and he's dropped 3 shitters so far in qualifying.
That's almost Trump. You could say that to anything, couldn't you, and deflect the question. What's happened here? Why have you bombed this country? Events, things have happened. It's beyond my control.
It's like line, just wanting some help from somewhere. Oh, it's just events really have done that. But what a question to ask him. It's like, are you going to resign, Mr. Minister? It's like, it's a bit thick of it, isn't it?
Definitely. I noted that he also called Steven Gerrard Stevie G in this interview. He also said, this is funny. Well, this is funny in hindsight. He confidently says that England's pace and options from the bench will be important tonight because Croatia will be tired and sapping.
I mean, why would they be more tired than England? And then there's kind of this thing that gets said throughout the game of like, oh, well, Croatia, how are they going to perform on this pitch? It's like exactly the same as England because they're both playing on the same surface. It's not like in cricket where like the pitch deteriorates and all of a sudden the ball starts going everywhere. Like they're both on the pitch at the same time with the same ball.
And it's not like they're from like Spain or like a country where there's no rain.
Or the moon. Like from what they're saying here. And it's like, is this all a bit like too open and naive for saying just like, well, I'm going to need my bench, definitely need the bench because I've messed the team up.
I thought the word sapping was interesting.
Yeah, like they're going to be more tired on the Wembley pitch than England will be.
He was asked, how would you describe the mood in the camp? And his answer was steely resolve.
I mean, that's
Not
not
confident.
yeah, just anything, just steely resolve, like he's been told to say that.
Said by Winston Churchill.
This McClaren is not for turning. That's what the atmosphere is like.
I had to rewind his kind of wrap up quote, but this is what he said. He'll be telling his players to, quote, remember that the game is played over 95 minutes. I'm
I
not.
mean,
Is he trying to be too clever, or is he just cocked it up? Is he got like, oh, I couldn't say 90 minutes because what if something happens in injury time?
I think that's a bit wanky, is it? Actually, 95 minutes games usually played over at an average of 2 minutes and 3 minutes injury time. It's all right. It's 90 minutes. It's just what everyone says. Don't try and guess the injury time.
Yeah, the lads in the studio are back and they are analysing Croatia. Righty thinks they will be upset by the weather. We've already kind of stamped
Just
that one
crying.
out. Get upset. No, I can't go out there in the rain.
My holiday.
There's not a mention for Luka Modric in all of this because I don't think he's playing in the Prem at this point. But Righty does seem fearful of Crankier. Again, do your research and you probably find that Luka Modric is pretty good stuff. There is one of the BBC team later who does point to the fact that he has done his research on Modric, but he's not part of the panel.
Absolutely, yeah. It's one of the more people you'd trust, isn't it? Really, who brings that up? But yeah, Modric here. I remember knowing about Modric again through Pro, and he was on my Master League team, so I'd bought him. I was like, right, let's see what this guy's about. Because I think I'd played, I can't remember the team he played for, but I think in my Master League I played them. I was like, well, he was pretty good. I'll just literally just buy him. That's fine then. And he was just a fucking business. He really was. And so it was actually fun seeing like the real life version of my computer generated man on the screen. It was like, oh, I've made him. But you got like such an association. It was always the same in Football Manager as well. But I guess it's kind of changed from these days where, in the same way that I did, people kind of like hear a player and go, yep, he's good. And you've never watched him.
Yeah.
It's just like, could be good. Who knows? People say he's good. But I was like, well, I knew he was good because I made him.
I think an alternative to that is the signing a youngster on FIFA who you haven't heard of at the time, but as your career mode progresses, he gets linked with a big move to the Prem.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's the way it ends up going. But with that as well, you can see how much punditry has come on from like this point as well. Like Hansen was all right, but he was always really miserable a lot of the time. But you can tell he's done his research. But Shearer's just like some chatbot, just like spewing out lines, like pre-written lines. And Wright was just clearly there as a fan as well. Like he's not really got any insight at all. But
no, he's such a fan.
Yeah. And the thing is though, that's like he's added a bit of analysis to his game now when he is a pundit. Like I do like seeing Ian Wright on TV now. But around this point, it was just like, why have we just got a fan in? Basically, like he wasn't offering anything interesting at that, and it was you could just turn up and be friends with people, and people would watch it because there was nothing else to watch.
Yeah, right. He had his column at the time, which is referenced as well by Gary Lineker.
Yeah. So Lineker says that he read Wright's column today, and Wright kind of looks a bit surprised by that. I was like, I had a column. like he's clearly not written it himself, but I'm assuming it was for the Sun, and I'm
didn't say
assuming
anything bad, did he?
Well, yeah. What did I say again?
Sexist was he?
How did I start it? But like, I'm pretty sure it was for like the Sun, and I imagine like Ian Wright's like column at this time would have just constantly had a poppy over it.
Yeah, well, it's
like,
the Sun.
just like yeah, definitely. And apparently, Wright said that McClaren should pick David Beckham instead of Sean Wright Phillips. So it's like reverse nepotism here.
Hot take, man.
I know it's like my boy's not as good as David, but also Lineker actually goes a bit talk sport at him and goes, so you're saying it's wrong that he's picked your son, is it? You're saying that? You're saying this on national TV? Like he's clearly winding him up, but it's just like, all right.
Yeah, we're nearing the kind of the final rally call. Lineker asks the lads for some final words. Righty says, right, this is right. Ian Wright says his final words, ram it down their throats all day long.
That's the all day long is definitely the worst bit of that as well. It was just like, oh, this is so aggressive.
This is my absolute favorite bit. I cannot, I'll know, I won't do this justice. You kind of have to see it. It's really subtle humour to me anyway, but Shearer, his final words, it's not often in football that somebody gives you something. Israel have given us something. We've got to take it now. Then Ian Wright kind of looking into the distance and gently sort of rocking, very softly, sincerely, and quietly as Shearer finished that sentence, says, "I love Israel."
Love Israel. It's just
Everyone's
like,
second
oh,
favorite team.
yeah, England B team essentially. That's become now after like this onslaught of love for it.
That's the analysis. I love Israel. Hanson's quite positive, predicts a comfortable England win. So there you go. Any more kind of thoughts on the lads? I'm looking at the pictures we have here. They're all suited and booted. There's no kind of smart cash that we have.
Yeah, which Wright would become an expert on kind of later on in his career, wouldn't he? But yeah, Shearer is just Mr. Next in this era. Like he's like this. That tie is like he's got like a brown and a darker brown tie with like it's light blue as well, but striped. And the tie is exactly the kind of gear I'd have worn in like sixth form. Like we
Yeah.
used because like we had to wear suits to sixth form,
Yeah.
like for business attire. But he's also got really like light brown shoes on with a dark blue suit, and that tie is just disgustingly matched. Like it is so like he's just walked into a Next and just gone, "Can you just dress me?" like
Yeah.
from 2007.
That episode of Barry, which we've both been watching recently, where in the first series where he just buys whatever's on the mannequin at that shop because he doesn't know what to buy for himself.
Yeah, that's exactly what Alan Shearer has done as well, and it's all just a bit too comfortable as well. And we've been here before, we've seen it, we've done it, we've qualified, and it's like England had done really. So you can't really blame them for like being like pessimistic, but they'd only failed to qualify for one tournament since 1980.
Oof.
Which is really good going. You know, not a lot of teams do.
Well, that's the positive side of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Just one more word on the clothing. You know, like I imagine that even though it doesn't look like it, these guys would have had stylists, and I'm imagining like those people were stealing a living. Like you say, just the next nowadays it would be like, right, you know, Roy Keane, you're a very kind of hard character. So we want something that represents that. But maybe we'll show a little bit of a softer side to you as well. So we'll get you like a nice grey jumper, you know, the kind of, you know, and what have you. And, you know, Shearer here. So Shearer, if it was the modern day and he was just stepping out and he was just trying to build his media personality, I would have said, black T-shirt, mate. Black T-shirt would have done the job for you. Maybe a bit of a shacket over the top.
I think that would have been more if they were like abroad at a tournament. This is November in the pissing rain at Wembley, and it's like it's like they haven't like particularly got stylists in there. But Alan Hanson's also wearing like a blue shirt, which I imagine
Hanson's beyond stylist.
Yeah, he was just like, well, that's just the colour I've always worn. My dad wore this shirt. He passed it down to me 20 years ago when he said, I can't wear shirts anymore, and he went to
telling me not to tuck my shirt in. Well, that's part of getting dressed. Lineker tells us to switch to HD if we have it, and we are in the ground where we are joined by John Motson, who ponders, thank God, who ponders what the reaction would have been from the crowd had Israel not helped us out. It's a very good point, actually. You would have been burning those tickets, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because England still could have qualified, but they would need to have beaten Croatia because. Yeah, because I guess Russia would have been there too. It's just weird looking at that group because it's so topsy-turvy where you're kind of going, well, even if Croatia lost, they'd have still been able to have gone through. So this game would have been inconsequential, really, if those results hadn't happened. The qualification would have been over already.
Yeah. Motson rightly predicts a huge supportive response would come from Wembley. And we do get that, absolutely. He's joined on commentary by Mark Lawrence. And yeah, he's on good form in this game. Lawrence, I've never liked him, but some of the England shit shows we've watched with him on comms, I don't know, in hindsight, I may be ever so slightly changing my opinion of him. Prince William is joined by the absolute slugs at the FA to stand pitchside under umbrellas, I should note, to pay respect to the national anthem. I just thought it was a little bit weird, as in, you know, they make such a big scene over him. I guess they're going to. I don't know. It's just like, can he not just be there for the national anthem the same as everyone else? But like, look at that. That's his mom's song.
Yeah.
Well, his nan's song.
Yeah, his nan's song.
His mom's song is Candle in the Wind.
That's very true. Very true. Yes. It feels weird also that he's kind of like pitch side, like he's not just up in the box somewhere.
That's what I'm. Yeah. Like pitch side. That's that's probably what I meant to say.
And doing
Actually,
doing the introductions as they go down the line for the national anthem as well. And William, notably, not under an umbrella like the bloody FA bigwigs as well. Like they're too posh to get wet.
man of the people, Prince
Yeah,
William.
exactly. It's kind of like a good point. He's just like, yeah, no umbrella. Like he's got it sussed, hasn't he? He
But
fucking knows.
he's also him and Steve McClaren actually both have perfectly fine heads of hair at this point. Absolute halcyon days for these guys. So they're, he's thinking about let's, get that natural rainwater in the hair. Let's let it flourish.
Use it while you can.
Exactly. That'll be gone. That'll be gone in no time, son. Don't worry about that. Right, we're on to the lineups then. In goal for England, Scott Carson gets the nod. Big. The defence, Mika Richards, Sol Campbell, Jolien Lescott, and Mainbridge. We'll talk about it all. I couldn't help but laugh there. Gareth Barry kind of holding. Sean Wright-Phillips on the right, Stephen Gerrard and Frank Lampard in the middle, Joe Cole on the left, Peter Crouch up front. Who on earth thought that was a defensive lineup? Just because Gareth Barry's in there.
Yeah, they've got the one holding player. What more do you want?
That is, I mean, you look at the team that he started the tournament, the qualification campaign with. He wouldn't have had Scott Carson in there. He wouldn't have had Mika Richards in there. He wouldn't have had Sol Campbell, Jolien Lescott, or Wayne Bridge in there. So the entire back five he wouldn't have had in there. Gareth
Barry's a stretch.
It's a stretch, but one he probably could have done with trying. We've always said that, but he's ideally he wouldn't have been starting Gerrard and Lampard.
I don't know. I think he loved it, but didn't mean it was right.
Yeah, true. And you would have had Rooney and Owen in there, wouldn't you? Now, obviously, circumstances dictate that that's not the case, but that is hodgepodge. I think that's not a Roy Hodgson reference, but it's the only way I can describe that team.
It feels so weird just because, like, if you put Michael Owen into that team and you go, okay, that's probably Frank Lampard is the player who is playing instead of Michael Owen. You kind of go Gerrard, Barry, Cole, Wright-Phillips, Owen, and Crouch. There's a bit more. There's something to that at least. And you just think, what's Jermaine Defoe done? Like,
what has he ever done?
But he's just been arsed around by McClaren picking Buddy Benson and Hedges and Steve Claridge up front for half the qualifying campaign. And then like Defoe's on the bench, like the player who is the most like similar to Michael Owen, you'd probably say.
Yeah.
Like he just making runs and like an instinctive finisher, but yet just dropped. And it's like, why are we going back to this system that like didn't work first time round and go into this? And I guess the big talking point clearly is no Robinson.
Yeah. No Robinson. I mean, it's one of them. He probably deserves to get dropped, but there is also one game left, and you're giving Scott Carson his second cap.
Yeah, first competitive cap ever. And Robinson, for the awful time he was going through, really, it's pretty soon that he's no longer the Spurs number one, and he moves to Blackburn Rovers in the summer of this year, I think, as well. You just think, really, Scott Carson, with all your options to go, having the information we have up to this point, is it a good idea to play a goalkeeper, if you're probably your most important, position, and you just decide, yep, you're coming in from the fucking depths of the cold?
Yeah. Are you saying you'd rather have David James start?
I'd rather Paul Robinson, because at least then it's kind of like that's like the end of the circle that's starting to come round, isn't it? Of just like backing your player, and maybe he'll make a really good save or something, but you just think an inexperienced goalkeeper. He hadn't really played like a lot of league games either. I think he was like at Villa around this point on loan from Liverpool. The season's not very far into it, and he was one of those goalkeepers that moved very early to like a big club and hadn't actually played that many first team games. So he's not really played a lot of football like in his career at this point, Scott Carson.
It's a strange one. Sol Campbell wins his 73rd cap in this game. Gerrard earns his 63rd, and Lampard is 60th. They're the big experienced players. The rest probably not got that many caps between them. And obviously, as we've said, there's no Rooney, Terry, Owen, and Ferdinand. Quick word for the bench, which is David James, the aforementioned. Ashley Cole, again aforementioned, kind of injured, but on the bench.
Why are you messing around with that? Like, because surely Ashley Cole, if he's been a doubt, how is he making the bench? And you just take the risk, wouldn't you? I know I'm picking like a lineup that is properly like full of gambles and God knows what else. But it's like, well, what else did you want me to do? Play Wayne Bridge? Like a guy who another one who just was out in the cold and then brought in all of a sudden. I know that's international football, but McClaren just seems to be doing it all the time throughout this.
Yeah. We only got to Ashley Cole on the bench, didn't we? Bloody hell. Wes Brown's there, Owen Hargreaves is there, Jermaine Defoe and Darren Bent, as well as David Beckham, who hasn't started on the bench for England since the 1998 World Cup.
There you go. It's Beck's time though, isn't it? Like he did really well. I think he picked up an injury in like that with that period where Wright Phillips has started playing a lot under McClaren as well. So yeah, let's see how that works out.
Let's have a look at the Croatia team then. You're tasked with saying these names, of course.
Absolutely. I'm surprised you took the England team from me. Yeah, in goal, Platicoza, and then Chorluka, Simic, Kovac, and Simunic as the back four. Dario Serna, Kovac, Modric, Crankshaw, Eduardo, and Olic up front. And there are some players on the bench, including Ivan Rakitic.
Shocked me, that did. I guess probably because I didn't hear about him until he's moved to Barcelona. And it's one of those who kind of seem to, like, you know, when a player goes to a team, you're like, bloody hell, he's actually killing it there.
Yeah.
And then you think, he's like 27, 28 by this point, but you don't realise. And then he, continues to play for them for quite a while.
But it's all very it's very Croatia, isn't it? Like these players just get birthed like from the ground, kind of, and all of a sudden they're just in the team for like, oh, but he's got 700 caps. It's like all these players are just like they just never change. Like Modric is still going. I'm pretty sure Chorluka was at like the last tournament or something mental for Croatia as well, and I feel like he was 28 here.
Yeah, we get a bit of I say insight. They list the Premier League players, including Chorluka, as you mentioned, who is named as part of the Ericsson revival at Manchester City. Now, in hindsight, we're recording this probably 3 or 4 days after Manchester City have completed a historic and famous treble. And who can forget Chorluka's part in all of that? The revival.
Chorluka's part in Ericsson's part, an even smaller part.
There's no mention at all of Modric in the build-up. As I say, the focus on the Premier League players, including Eduardo. He starts up front, and big Arsene Wenger's boys are top of the league at this point. So he's probably doing quite well there.
Yeah, he was really, really good. This was kind of his season where he'd started to shine for Arsenal, and it was Eduardo's leg break at Birmingham City which started this particular Arsenal title collapse this year as well. Another video I remember seeing on the internet before I knew where to look for things on the internet.
Yeah,
I think it was like
snuff.
Yeah, it was just snuff. Weird things of just like, oh my god, have you seen this? And it's like, I don't know how I received any of this, but I remember it being like, oh, actually, French TV have shown a replay because we didn't get one in England. It was like the disgusting French with their leg breaks, just showing them just willy nilly. It's like, I don't want to see it. But yeah, I remember it was kind of like, where do you find these things in 2007?
We're on to the national anthems, and these are great tonight. I think the Croatia anthem is so funny. The guy singing, it looks a bit like Howard from the Halifax adverts. And man, he's absolutely giving it some for this one. He knows he's in the presence of a king, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like he's trying to like suppress a cough, and then all of a sudden he just comes out. He's like, boo! And he just like screams out of him all of a sudden. It's just like, fucking hell, mate. All right.
Yeah, Watson says that to return to form for the anthem because it was badly treated in Macedonia on Saturday. I'm not sure if you meant by fans or by the performer. Maybe the performer on Saturday wasn't as good as the guy tonight. But the Croatian fans are so up for it. They really do kind of embody that. They're not a small team, but they are a small country, if that makes sense. I
think at this point, we mentioned before, no one really realizes at this point, like lying in wait is a fantastic football team. Like it's just like, oh, Croatia, they've done all right, haven't they? They've, they're top. They've done all right. They've looked their way there, but like just sitting there underneath is just this fucking brilliant football team too. And to honour this, England fans instantly start booing the national anthem. So get that one in there.
National anthems to be sung by Tony Henry. 3, 2, 1.
Yep. Always covering ourselves in glory, even as the home team.
Yeah.
The same man, thank God, sings the England national anthem, and he goes another level. I didn't think he had another level to go to, but he has another level to go to, and he goes there. He's so good and so loud that you can't hear the fans or the players. So therefore, for me, this is top draw, top tier England national anthemage, fit for a future king.
Well, the conditions there, you can see.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was I think he gives it everything, doesn't he? He knows he's in presence of like a big game and a big attendance, and I don't know where they find these people. Really, it's like when you look at like wrestling and they're like, oh, multi Grammy nominated star, man you've never heard of. It's like, oh, they've won 19 Grammys. Like I don't know where they like would go to get like the opera singers for all this kind of stuff.
I think it's yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's quite as glorious as WrestleMania. I think it's a bloke from the pub. I
Yeah.
saw him. I saw him. He played at my local food festival.
Yes.
We're into the final stretches of the build-up then, and the first kind of shot we see post kind of teams and lineups and what have you, just as we're ready for crunch time, is Steve McClaren, who is fully immersed under an umbrella, and it is a huge, like that is an oversized umbrella, right?
Yeah, it looks excessive, and as well, I'll definitely put one of these photos up on the socials. But he looks like he's doing like a Limmy face, like he's got the tiny eyes in it as
Yeah.
well, pointing as well, and it's like we've clearly got a problem. I was going to say about it later, but now, but things get said about McLaren with this incident here and with the brolly, and I think it's just people are like, oh, he had a brolly, he had a umbrella on when he was
I
at
know.
work and he didn't want to get wet. How dare he? And then it's contrasted when you look over and you see Slaven Bilic and he is just there like he's just going through like the pitch snow, just like does
Yeah.
not care, just gets in and just instantly just puts himself in front of the fire.
Bilic is absolutely class in this. I think we'll get to that a bit later. The umbrella is huge. It's fit for HD TV, and Watson tells us that he is aware that McLaren and his team are not happy with the condition of the pitch.
Yeah, another one about the bloody American football, isn't it? I think Lawrence has some complaints about it as well.
Yeah, he says there was an American football game played at Wembley 2 weeks ago, something that he believes to be a bad decision and something that won't happen ever again, especially not in the month of October.
Is that a joke? Is he says, oh, never in a month of October's or something like that? Like it's like not a real like thing. Like, is that a joke?
But it's not like we know. I don't think of November as that's England month. That's England big qualifiers month. So if it's not a joke, what is it? Does he mean because of the weather? The weather's going to be bad, so therefore the Wembley pitch will be a bit. It's like to Lawrenson.
I think he's just saying. I think he's just saying things. I think he just doesn't know what he's talking about usually.
We're into the game then, and I do genuinely have to say the pitch is really, really, really bad. The Wally with the Brody kind of memory sticks out, but if there's ever been need for an umbrella, it's tonight. They continue to talk. That's still the talking point as the game kicks off. The weather. Lawrenson says that the referee needs to take the pitch into consideration tonight.
Again, like it's cricket or something where you've got to but also why is the ref got to take that into consideration? Like, I'm assuming he means like players are going to be sliding into tackles. So they've got it. So the referee's got to let more fouls go because they can't control the pitch.
Yeah, they can't
or
control
themselves from like sliding all the way across it, which we'll get to.
It takes only 18 seconds for the commentary to reference McClaren and his umbrella. Motson says McClaren needs shelter in more ways than one. How's about that?
Yeah. Thanks, Marty.
Yeah. just a nice little summary though of even if England get there tonight, it's not good, is it? Like
No.
he's under fire again.
Well-
Another good use for an umbrella.
Yeah.
On 38 seconds, so we're still in the first minute. Gerrard does a sliding tackle and slides all the way off the pitch and onto the concrete. Kind of a beta moment, a precursor to Sol Campbell's never-ending slide tackle.
Absolutely, which is features in this game, which is one of the greatest things that's ever happened in history. But they also get like the little offside flag. That surprised me. Like it was like Clippy from Microsoft Word or something. Like the offside flag goes up and immediately like, oh, it's offside, and the little icon comes up in the top corner. I wonder why
Yeah.
they don't do that anymore.
It just looks naff, doesn't it?
It looks a bit naff, but it's still just like offside. Don't worry about it. But I guess offsides are like so complicated kind of these
Yeah.
days as well. But also it can be done by a robot. So why is it so complicated?
So we've had umbrellas, we've had slides, we've had a little offside flag. It's a packed opening minute. What would you say about England kind of early doors? Because obviously the shape has been a bit of a it's not kind of black or white. It's kind of up for debate, isn't it? Before kickoff, everyone has their opinions. The commentary team kind of know that we're more 4-3-3 than 4-5-1. Maybe they're hoping to inject a bit of positivity into there.
I think they're that because England just don't really have the ball for a lot of it. But when they do, it's like their brains are just broken because Peter Crouch is on the pitch on his own. So it's just like, just get the ball to him as quickly as humanly possible. It's just like straight away. Like I imagine like the ball just like dropping up for Gerrard and him just lumping it over his own head. Like just kicking it up just towards Crouch. You just got to try and deal with it. It's not like they're like even aiming like anything good at him. It's just utter shit.
I know. We get our first mention of Modric, and it's from John Motson, who says, keep your eye on number 14, the future of Croatian football, Luka Modric, playing for Dynamo Zagreb at the moment, but it's believed he's going to be on the move in January, with Chelsea amongst the clubs interested. Top player. One respect from Motson for Luka.
He's done his research, hasn't he? There, and is the bit of like Modric hasn't really changed much. Like he looks pretty much exactly the same. Apart from he looks like more like the guy from The Enemy here than he does now.
Yeah, I don't know if is he from Kov originally as well, and kind of half Kov / half
Croatia.
Just take a moment to think that this game seems so far in the past, but he was crucial in knocking England out of the World Cup semi-final under Gareth Southgate. All those years later.
Yeah, it's just wild, isn't it? Really, when you realise how long he's been around, and I think he's still. Yeah, I don't know when this goes out and he may leave, but he's still at Real Madrid now.
Yeah,
and just still doing the business, like 38 or something that he is, and it's just like what a career, and he's just on a different level in this game as well. This is the real thing of like when Tottenham signed him not long after this, you were like, okay, they've got a brilliant footballer right there.
he was brilliant for them, and then obviously, as you say, Real Madrid, he's secured a kind of immortal legacy as one of the all-time great midfielders. Definitely up there with your Pirlos and those types of players as well.
Oh yeah, probably really when you look back, he probably will end up elapsing like your
Yeah.
Pirlos because he's just done so much and like won probably about 9 European Cups or something as well without even thinking about it.
I kind of think anyone in that Real Madrid sort of legendary team they've kind of knocked the previous generations out of sight, haven't they?
Yeah.
The game itself has got off to a bit of a back and forth start, with neither team crafting a chance when on 8 minutes, Nico Cranshaw takes a pot shot from quite a way out.
Frank Lampard by Robert Kovac, wasn't it? This is Cernar. It's come across to Cranshaw. Eduardo in the centre. Cranshaw will shoot from here. Oh, it's gone right through! It's deceived Scott Carson, and England are a goal down after only 7.5 minutes. The very thing they didn't want to happen, and particularly to the young goalkeeper. What on earth went on was that the pitch, I wonder? Nico Cranshaw. And there didn't seem to be any danger here at first when the ball went out to him. He comes slightly inside Micah Richards, and it's gone in off the goalkeeper almost, Mark Lawrence.
Well, the first rule of goalkeeping, John, is keep your eye on the ball, but also get your body in front of the ball, and then if you happen to miss it, it hits your body and comes back out. That is just a pure lack of concentration by Carson.
Now, this is one of the all-time worst England goals to ever concede.
Yeah, the drama and the kind of anxiety in the stadium has just gone up a notch because Scott Carson, who was brought on to replace Paul Robinson for his howler against Croatia, has gifted the opposition the lead.
Yeah, it's just terrible, and also when from the clip as well, the noise when it goes in is one of the best noises I can remember. It's like a mixture of shock from the England fans that it's happened, but also that great noise of like a European crowd, like away from home celebrating a goal,
Yeah,
like that.
like
That pure,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just like totally different noise, and it's one of the worst sounds to ever hear if it's your team playing at home.
I should say Scott Carson wasn't brought in to replace Robinson for his howler against Croatia. He was brought in to replace Robinson for his howler against a different team, but he also has made a howler against Croatia in this
Oh yeah,
tournament
it's
so
one
far.
of the it's one of them. It's one of them, isn't it? It's a multitude of wrong reasons, but Carson just does his own one as well, which is terrible.
Yeah, the shot from Cranchiari straight at the feet of Carson, and honestly, there was no real pace to it, and it's so confusing because it just completely missed, and it bounces right in front of him and straight in. I kind of found it hard to tell if it was the pitch or what. The bounce just didn't seem natural. It was like a glitch.
Yeah, it does seem really odd because you just think, oh, maybe it's the pitch and it's just bobbled or something like that. But really, it's like he's got his wrists in the wrong position. Like he's going to save it purely with like half of his hand. When you kind
Yeah.
of like see the still of how it goes in, he goes to do that. He like hasn't got his body behind it either. Like he just kind of reacts really late to what's going on. I don't know if he's like worried about falling over or something like that. But it's just, he's totally in the wrong place. His body's not behind the ball. And kind of what's awful is it's like one of those moments like the Rob Green one we did in 2010, where kind of it just stays on Carson for a while, the camera. And it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, what's happened? And it's not good. And what's even worse for Carson really is that he doesn't touch the ball again until the 37th minute. So the goal is scored in the 8th minute. He doesn't touch the ball again until 37th minute. And when he does, he still kicks it to a Croatian player.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot to say about this goal, really, and obviously at the time the commentators were trying to piece together what had just happened. Lawrenson describes it as a pure lack of concentration. It could be that. I thought your opinion there, well, your theory there that he was maybe trying to stop himself falling over. Imagine conceding that in and falling over and your shorts falling down. Nightmare times.
And then you've not done your maths homework as well.
Exactly. Lawrenson says it was more Frank Carson than Scott Carson.
I mean, I guess that's another Lawrenson joke, I guess, isn't it? Brilliant.
Right. Do we move on from the goal there? Do you have any? I mean, it's very. I'm just bearing in mind that it's his second performance and his first kind of what do you call it, competitive cap for England, and we're about 12 minutes in.
Yeah, it's just awful, isn't it? There's no two ways around it, and it's kind of like the pitch has probably played a part, but more in just like the worry of what the pitch may do rather than what the pitch has actually done. And it's clearly got into his head. He's totally in the wrong position, and it's terrible, isn't it? But England they kind of carry on from this sort of straight up. Literally a minute later, they have a chance to equalise as well. Sean Mike Phillips has like a good chance. The Croatian keeper does get like a strong wrist to it as well and gets it away. Does a lot better than Carson did anyway.
Yeah, it was it was a good save, but still a bit at him. So yeah, Carson must have been looking over thinking, if only I can get me some of that.
Oh, I wish I'd have had that chance. That even harder chance to save than I have. But Wright Phillips kind of scored that exact same goal like twice in like the 3 games leading up, like when they were at Wembley anyway. I think he gets on the score sheet twice, and both goals just on the left hand side, right hand side, like first time shot straight in. And it's just like, okay, that trick's not worked either. Like that's the one chance we had to do that.
Yeah, and to be fair to England, in the aftermath of the goal, obviously including that chance we've just mentioned, they have responded well, and the crowd are really behind the team. The team are kind of making chances in the couple of minutes after the first goal, but then.
Brilliant, and his ball across was good as well. Crouch just couldn't sort his feet out.
Lampard. Barry. And now Campbell. This time Crouch heads back towards Lampard. Niko Kovac has immediately sus that Lampard is running onto those touches, and Eduardo is away here for Croatia. Oh, is he offside? Kovac. Oh, it's gone in! And is the flag up? The flag is not up! And Olic has scored! Olic has scored for Croatia, it's 2-0! You can't believe this! 13 minutes gone, and everybody looked for the offside! And it's Olic! Ivica Olic here, picking it up from Eduardo. Is he off? Is he off? No, he's not off. He's level. And he goes round Carson, and Olic has made it 2-0 to Croatia after 13 minutes. Arsenal's Eduardo made the pass.
And this is so bad. England are 2-0 down. They're piling men forward, which in the heat of the moment, I can kind of understand, even if it's tactically a bit silly. It's a misplaced header from Frank Lampard on the edge of Croatia's penalty area, back towards the England midfield. So he's tried to keep possession. You know, Gerrard will be behind me. Oh no, shit, he's in
Don't worry
front
about
of me. He's in front of me. Where's Gareth Barry in all of this?
Well, I literally can't even see him in the screenshot we've got to kind of explain the goal to us. I don't even know where Gareth Barry is in shot.
I know. Yeah, the header is kind of controlled by Niko Kovac, and it's hoofed forward. So with one pass, Eduardo is away. England's defence clamber back to the point where Eduardo has 3 men within a yard of him on the edge of England's penalty area, and they are all taken out by a tricky little through ball to Olic. He loses his marker, rounds the keeper, and slots home while 6 England players pathetically appeal for offside. They are desperate for that flag.
Yeah, and it's just one. It's Wainbridge, I think, who's playing them all on as well. Even the right back, who I think it may be Mika Richards, who's there, and they're just desperately just hoping, aren't they? That's all they've got left here because he's rounded the keeper and scored.
Arguably a worse goal than the first. This is clearly not a mistake. It's just we are shit. And Motson is straight in there as well. The flag is not up. The flag is not up. Olic just scored. Olic just scored.
He's shouting like there's a fire or something. Get
That's
out,
perfect.
everybody out.
That is perfect way of describing it. Yeah, it is like and to be fair, he has set fire to England's hopes of qualifying for Euro 2008.
He has, and I, when you stand back and look at it, the goal from Croatia's point of view, it's a brilliant goal. Just looking from that, it's a nothing ball up to Crouch. You can't do anything with it. I think it may be Modric who receives it, and just no look passes it over his shoulder, properly vertically behind him, straight to Eduardo, immediate brilliant first touch. Who's just away, puts Olic through. It's fantastic, but it is aided by bad defending. The England should do better with it, but it's one of those incisive breakaways. The ball barely touches the floor by the time Eduardo's running through on goal with it. And it's such an awful situation in football. You go down a big game, go down a goal early, you come back and you've got hope. You can, all right, we've got ages left, lads. Don't worry about this, and then to concede straight away. That is a special kind of sinking feeling. That is all right. The first one you can kind of explain away, and you can kind of, all right, well, we've got time. Don't worry about it. But oh shit, this is. Yeah. It's like that Russia games happened to them, in game of oh no, this is happening actually.
Yeah. It cuts to the managers. Then we get a bit of a take on each of those. Croatia have Bilic, who just wore a big coat and a tight woolly hat, and he's ready to brave the elements, while McClaren sips water from a bottle under an enormous umbrella, and you just think, we have really fucked this here. Why didn't we get Bilic?
yeah, oh God, we've done this by appointing him. What were we thinking? It's like the murderer has just been amongst us since the start of the film. Oh God, it's McClaren. He's the problem. We did that.
Do you remember all that
talk? He's got an umbrella, apparently.
Do you remember all that talk about Croatia not liking the weather and not liking the pitch?
I know, yeah, and it's England and all the FA that are there with bloody umbrellas on.
Just embracing it.
Bilic is just there with his non-breathable hat.
Yeah, just smashing us 2-0. McClaren drinks so much. I said sipped. That really doesn't do it justice, man. He is drinking so much water, and he's so aware that the cameras are on him every couple of seconds. He looks horribly awkward.
just chugging that water down.
Yeah. It's almost like, I don't know, like he's in the middle of a bad trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well-
And he's just like, oh, I don't know what to do. Just drink water, drink lots of water. That's what they say, isn't it?
Yeah. 20 minutes have gone now, and Motton says if England can't do it tonight, we've got to hope that Andorra do us a favour against Russia.
Oh, we've had
Still
enough.
that is still a mathematical possibility.
What happened to Israel? Everyone was a big fan of Israel a little while ago, weren't they?
They've done their bit, but we need Andorra now. Bloody hell.
I mean, asking Israel for any sort of favour, like it's probably not going to end well. But now you're going hands out to Andorra for this as well.
Yeah, and it's followed up by Motson saying that Andorra have lost all 29 of their previous tournament qualification games dating back to 1996. And Lawrenson, yeah, he just says, yeah, but
And there's no noise. And there's no noise after that. It's just, yeah, but just nothing. Just absolute pitch silence, pitch black silence from that. Yeah, he's just like, no idea. No, I've got nothing.
The writers in the studio, you're on your own here, Mark. We then see that England are still going through as things stand. We get the little table. Russia are yet to take the lead against Andorra. Fucking hell. Come on.
How shit is this group? How awful is it? England have kind of joked their way to this stage and they're 2-0 down at home in the last qualifier and they're still going through. Like nothing is beyond this team from failing upwards, really.
The game continues. England have a bit more of the ball, but they are doing nothing with it. No surprise there. It's pure kind of long ball football up to Peter Crouch, who nods them on to nobody because, as we know, there is nobody there with him. Croatian fans actually start to ole on 22 minutes as England keeps sliding around and being easily worked around.
And with that as well, we then get the most culturally significant moment of the entire McClaren era and maybe of the century. Sol Campbell's never-ending slide tackle. Just beautiful. I mean, just to talk you through it slightly, when the pass is made, Campbell is just outside the penalty area. And by the time he makes a tackle, he is almost halfway from the left of the area to the side of the pitch. By the time he completes the slide, he isn't even on the grass bit of Wembley anymore. He's I don't think I've ever seen that bit of Wembley that he slides onto. It's like he goes off stage or something.
Yeah,
it's just so crazy. And I'm pretty sure that Campbell is kind of actually stopped by a ball that's on the M25 at some point as well.
I mean, that is the real quiz, though, isn't it? Who's done the biggest slide in the rain?
Exactly. It's England and it's Campbell who's been brought back for one last job, and it is just so glorious. Every now and again that comes back on Twitter, and I just go, "Oh yes!" Going into a warm bath. It's just beautiful to watch again. It's just on loop constantly. I could just watch it all day.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this conversation that are noted that took place between commentators just before the half an hour mark. So, John Motson. So it's between Motson and Lawrenson. John Motson, does McClaren now have to make a change and bring another striker on? Bear in mind, this is just before 30 minutes. Lawrenson, I can't see him doing that before half-time. Motson, Mourinho would, wouldn't he? Lawrenson, yeah, I think others would do as well. Silence. Lawrenson, thing is, he could put Joe Cole up there and play Gareth Barry on the left just to change it, just to give them something to think about. Oh no, Gareth Barry's playing on the left and we've got a 2-0
panic, fucking panic. Quickly change the whole team. Gareth Barry's
on the left. Barry's on the left.
They're gonna score.
I mean, Mourinho would, wouldn't he? He'd bring a striker on. My God.
This was as well, because that's clearly the ramblings of an idiot, but this was peak love of Mourinho at this point as well. He actually left Chelsea for the first time 2 months previous to this. So everything had to be put through the prism of Mourinho because he was still seen as this big genius who basically ran football now.
Yeah.
It's well, maybe would he change? Would he make an attacking substitute 30 minutes in when they needed to get a draw? Maybe not. I mean, what we think of Mourinho now, not really. But when they start talking about this, the producer's clearly gone, right, well, who's warming up for us then? And we get the England subs bench and Darren Bent is wearing the biggest tracksuit. Kind of that I've just ever seen. It's he's on a fun run and he needs a big monster, honey monster head on him.
It looks like his
Like-
trousers are those with like the zip at the bottom, and he's had to undo it just to like I don't know, I don't even know, to make them a bit more aerodynamic or something. They're sagging on the floor. It's like fucking Grebo baggy jeans back in the day.
But he's also looks like he's like his head looks so tiny, like 'cause he's got like a bib over the top of his England coat, like a full coat, and then he's clearly got his kit on underneath. But it's like he's got padding on, like he just really doesn't like the cold. And you're like, God, is that what we've got to turn to? Darren Bent.
I know. So we're about half an hour in, as we say. The crowd are getting hostile whenever Croatia keep the ball, but they're getting hostile at England players, not Croatia. So the nice atmosphere that Motson said would be coming at the start and did for the first 5 or so minutes has kind of evaporated into nothing. And England don't look great, really.
They look terrible in this game. I forgot actually how bad England were when I watched this game back, and they can barely keep hold of the ball. It's just so stupid. The entire game, as if one England player like jogging to get the ball from either like a poor touch or a poor pass. Like everyone's just in perpetual movement all the time, and you look at McClaren. He'd settled on Barry being this holding player. For that run of qualifiers where things were back on track, and he's never been that quick. I don't think he was like ever an amazing passer of the ball, but I don't think I've ever even seen him sprint. So you just think like amongst all the chaos, he's not really the calming influence. And he'd messed around with the team here, but he'd started qualification with Hargreaves and Carrick in qualifying, who were both much better on the ball. I'd probably say better positionally as well than that. And it's
had
kind
a bit
of all
more fight as well, like especially with Hargreaves. Barry's fine. But if you really need somebody to kind of get stuck in and like just chase players around and chase those kind of lost causes, as they say, Hargreaves is a much better option than Gareth
He was
Barry.
much more mobile, and the injuries hadn't really hit him at this point either. And it's all just kind of put together like Steven Gerrard, who is just all blood, fire, and piss in this game. And he's not calm at all. And just the way he's just always running at full pelt as well. It's like he's on Takeshi's Castle doing the skipping stones or something. Like just no time does he ever just stand still.
Yeah.
Like he's always just right full strength. I've got to do that. And Lampard barely even touches the ball. He just gets forward. He doesn't get involved in the build up much. And there's a great Motson line as well around this point too, where Motson is constantly reminding people, if you've only just joined us, which I think is like something I'd never really thought of before, but Motson was always one of, well, if you've joined us late, bloody hell, what have you been doing? And secondly, have you seen the score?
For the overtimers out there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's not 4 o'clock.
I want to get back to the England game.
It's not 4 o'clock at least, is it either? It's like prime time at least. But this game still is loud. Like everyone is just screaming. England are furiously appealing for decisions to keep the ball, to try. Just anything, it's just crazy. And the game, like the players are loud, the fans, again, they're screaming angry, but they're still making like a really good atmosphere in a way.
Yeah. 35 minutes in, and we're still going through. Come on, Andorra. You can do it. Just hold on.
It's funny when Motson updates us on the Andorra score and says, "Let's look at the table now." It's like he's like doing like a game show or something. Like this is what the scores are.
And
It's awful.
2 minutes after that, England are now going out because Russia take the lead. Fuck's sake.
Don't show us the table again, please. Yeah, and straight away from that, it almost gets like compounded when Carson nearly makes another mistake and just somehow palms it out, and England clear it just about. But England are a mess this game.
Croatia looks so comfortable. They just know that England have it all to do, and at that point, we're going to move into half-time, and the boos at half-time are incredible.
England have looked at 6s and 7s, and to concede such a soft goal, they've never really recovered from that moment.
And boos ring round Wembley. What will they say in the England dressing room? Nico Crenshaw gave Croatia the lead after 7 minutes. A dreadful mistake by the new goalkeeper. And after 14 minutes, it was 2-0 when Ivica Olic beat the offside trap.
It's like Motson has never been so disgusted. It's the way he says, and the boos around Wembley. Like he just can't quite believe it. It's genuinely like England is 6-0 down, the way that like it's being talked about. And I know they might as well be 6-0 down to be 2-0 down, but like it is like the end of the world. like he's just happening around everyone, and no one really knows how to react.
I didn't take the time to put the halftime kind of talk into a word cloud, but there are a number of key phrases that get mentioned quite often and would probably show up quite prominently if I were to do so. They include abject, poor, Sunday league, we need a point, rattle someone, get the crowd going, the system, fight, flat, catastrophic, and fear. And I
Just-
think that sums it up, right?
Yeah, I love we need a point. Like I imagine them all like in a really dark room, just wandering around, like arms in the air, like they don't really know what they're saying, and just we need a point, just like off into the distance. Yeah, Hansen
Rattle
says that.
someone as well.
Yeah, they're devoid of fight. I don't really think it's fight's the problem. It's because no one can keep their head at all. It's not like Croatia have come and kicked England off the pitch. They've been miles better than England, and England have been 2 up for it almost.
Yeah. We also see a roundup of the other games, halftime results from none other than Mr. High Performance himself, Jake Humphrey.
Oh, this was such a horrible thing to see. Really,
Yeah,
It's
not
ruined
welcome.
my viewing this. This
Not
was
welcome at
awful.
all.
No, not
So-
at all. No one needed to watch this.
He's kind of. I mean, we talked about Shearer's clothing earlier. This black this black shirt with like white stripes and no tie, and he looks like a prat.
Yeah, I love the no tie. I love the no tie look, Jake. Yeah, why not? Yeah, it's awful. He hadn't quite told himself that positivity and negativity is just a mindset, and no one's shown you the key to accessing yourself either yet. So he hasn't gone full high performance yet. He is just presenter bot 101 really here. He's not, woken up to the big awakening for himself yet either. But yeah, his attire is terrible. Is again disgusting presenter body position as well. Like he's kind of like janking his one arm out to the side as well. And yeah. But we must thank him. He invented podcasts. So thank you, Jake.
We wouldn't be here without him.
Not all.
If there was ever a need for high performance, we're staring at it right now. We've got a second half to look at, a second half to get through. And out of nowhere, David Beckham's music hits. Bang. Can you believe it? McClaren has hit the David Beckham button. Oh my God.
Break glass for Beckham. It is happening. Yeah. And Ian Wright said it would be the greatest comeback of all time. That is mad.
Yeah,
To score 2 goals at home to Croatia.
Yeah.
With a half to play.
Beckham, wearing number 17, is joined by Jermaine Defoe incoming on from the bench, with Gareth Barry and Sean Wright-Phillips making way. Beckham 17.
Yeah. Look, I feel this is a bit of an underrated Beckham era almost. This is like re-loved by the people, knows his place, humble David Beckham. With like 17 on it, I really like this period, and it's like, yeah, that's the great number now, isn't it?
Yeah, this is David Beckham the next day.
Yeah, the next level on, isn't it? But Wright Phillips is off. He's not been bad, but you kind of just go, yeah, Beckham is the cure for this situation, for this illness, isn't it? You must add Beckham, and the ovation when he comes on is amazing. It is like genuinely high on the Grealish scale, isn't it? It is fantastic, and just one of the things as well. We talked about like the royal boxes earlier. Amazingly, Venables spent some of the first half sat in the royal box. What the holy hell? He is supposed to be the assistant manager.
Assistant manager to
just
2-0
fucking off-
down.
and he's off like hobnobbing with the
Yeah.
fucking Royals and the Toffs all like that. And it's just like,
You could just
got a
imagine,
game.
God, yeah.
got a
what have you
game
got
on
to-
here. Like, this is really important.
What are you going to do to get annoyed today? No, I'm joking. But no, seriously. It's good to meet you, Will. Good to meet you, Will. You seeing anyone at the moment? He's always thinking of the next move, isn't he? Venables. We've seen him
But it's just-
purring in the past for the England job.
He is. It's just mad, really. But it's such a big game as well, and it's just like, oh yeah, don't worry, you won't need me for this one, will you? I'll just nip off. I'll be down in a bit. Yeah. I'll be out down in a bit. And like when that second one goes in, he's like, I best get down there.
Yeah. McClaren is actually down in a bit. He's a minute late out into the second half.
Yeah, probably.
Sends a good
Probably
picture.
looking for that. Probably looking for that commemorative toilet where Keegan resigned, didn't he?
Yeah. Just like summoning the spirit of that time, getting ready for his own resignation. It's got to be in the
Yeah.
post at this point. 50 minutes in, and we get a free kick in nearly Beckham territory. The crowd remembers years gone by and starts to get back behind the team. It goes just wide after a deflection, and as Beckham runs to take the corner, there is a huge pop.
Yeah, when he kind of lines up, it is the exact same camera angle as the Greece game as well, when he's lining up for the free kick, which is beautiful to see. But like I say, nothing happens. Croatia, so close to breaking through again, but Gerrard does some sort of like Roy of the Rovers slide tackle and breaks up the play. But Croatia were just 1-on-1 again, so straight away they've not changed how they're playing. They're still going to kill England off here.
And the next 5 or 6 minutes kind of pass without note, except for Terry Venables, who's back in his seat and does a mega wince, which goes on for ages. The picture has to be shared on socials, Nick. I mean, like, it shows him and McClaren. McClaren looks sad and like he doesn't have like any words. And Terry Venables is just going like, that's going to sound horrible on the recording, but it looks like his teeth are bone dry by the end of
He's
that.
got a bit like the Freddy Krueger face about him, just like that pure teeth out.
He's going Bob, Twin Peaks vibe. The
Yeah.
evil Terry Venables is just trying to break out. Oh my God. 55 minutes are gone, and Joe Cole floats a pointless ball into the box. We've seen plenty of those over the years. It's easily collected by the Croatian goalkeeper. Why is that of note, you ask? Well, there's a whistle.
Cole again. He's come inside Olic. Oh, this could be a penalty.
It is for holdings. Defoe was
Holding Robert Kovac on Defoe, but the assistant referee spotted it. There was definite contact, there's no doubt about that. Just watch as the ball goes in here from Joe Cole. Robert Kovac, well, it's an arm, is it? Simunic just tugs in slightly there. Left back Simunic on Defoe. And England have been given the most unlikely lifeline here, as they were against Poland in 7.
And it's penalty. It's penalty. And it's such a shit penalty like to give. Motson is like, it's an arm, is it?
Yeah, I love the way he says it. Like it's an arm, like it's like a sniffer dog is like found like a missing person. It's like he's found an arm. Where did you find this? Like what is going on? It's the softest penalty. It really is.
The days before VAR, I can't believe that this is given. Like, the one like in the FA Cup final, Man United against Man City, that was a bit of a soft one. You see them all the time in the Prem there, don't you? Where it's like the arm has touched it, but like, what is going on?
But I think what happens is like it's an arm over Jermaine Defoe from memory. So it's kind of like, oh, he's keeping Jermaine Defoe down. But it's like, have you seen the size of Jermaine Defoe? He is not getting there. Like it is so harsh.
So harsh. But Frank Lampard steps up to take. Can he convert?
Given the most unlikely lifeline here, as they were against Poland in 73 when Alan Clark scored from that penalty. We have another one here tonight. What a responsibility for Frank Lampard. This puts England right back in it if he scored, and he did miss one. Don't forget, in the World Cup quarter-final shootout. Everybody hold your breath. Scores! England have new hope. Lampard from the penalty spot. It's 2-1.
Well, it takes great nerve, doesn't it, in this situation?
And a man who's sometimes been cheered by the Wembley crowd is the man that puts England back in the box seat here.
Yes, he can. I love the Motson giving it the big. Everybody, hold your breath as he steps
Everybody, stay where you were. Don't jinx it.
A huge roar from the crowd as Lampard rifles it into the bottom left corner, sending the goalkeeper the wrong way.
Yeah, and the Croatian keeper gives like Lampard the entire right side of the goal to aim at as well. Like he's almost going down before the ball's even struck, and it's just like that is not great. But like say England do get back into it at this point.
Well, They are back into that. Is an absolute lifeline if ever there was. 55 minutes. You're telling me we've got 35 minutes and a goal, a goal to score. Wembley behind us, Beckham on,
Greatest comeback ever.
Greatest comeback ever is on. But 1 minute later, it seems as though Olic just hit the bar for Croatia. So Croatia have hit the bar, but it's actually Wayne Bridge who has the last touch. Sliding to stop a through ball from reaching Olic. The touch beats Carson and hits the top of the crossbar.
I love that. I think Croatia have hit the bar. I know it's Wayne Bridge. Like fucking Wayne Bridge has done
it
it
for ourselves again.
Yeah, exactly. It's nearly one of the great own goals from England as well. And it was horrific and a timely reminder that Croatia could easily just score at any point and should be kind of like the end of Wayne Bridge at international level. He has an absolute stinker in this game.
And from the resulting corner, Olic rifles a header at Scott Carson, who has to make a really good save to stop it from going 3-1. I mean, that is, we can say what we like about Carson. I don't think we've been too nasty on him personally or even on his ability. But that takes big balls to pull off a save like that after cocking up so much earlier on.
Yeah, he does well to make a save, and he kind of keeps England in it, even though it's kind of like buggered a lot of it up for England as well. But yeah, I think like Bridge nearly gives another goal away as well. Like he puts like a short ball out to and he just gets robbed basically, and it's another one. It's just like not being helped out by anybody, but again, another bit of a stinker for him.
Yeah, I have to say at this point, I don't think I've actually seen much defending from England. Like I know we're playing defenders, but I don't remember a tackle or dispossessing anybody. Defenders are there to kind of slide. We've seen Sol Campbell slide.
Yeah.
They're mainly there to kind of try and slide in front of stuff. And Wayne Bridge nearly gifts Croatia another goal. Not long after that, the whole back four are just not up to it tonight. And obviously with Gareth Barry gone, there's nobody there to really support them.
Oh yeah, really now. Yeah, because it was just like gung-ho, Lampard, Gerrard back in the middle, doing what they don't do. And just doing that. But there's a bit of a change in what everyone's wearing as well. At this point, I think you noted.
Yeah, 60 minutes in now. And Bilic, who keen-eared listeners will recall, had been wearing a waterproof coat and a woolly hat so far. He's now in just your bog standard suit. The rain continues, but he's got rid of the hat and the coat. Whereas McClaren is still brollied up with no one but himself to blame, really, for the way things are going. If you're going to if you're going to hold a huge HD ready umbrella, you kind of deserve what's coming to you. We do see McClaren a couple of minutes after Bilic. He's barking instructions from the touchline at this point with a coat over his suit, and the brolly has actually gone, I'll hold my hands up there. I'm sorry, Steve. We get another update from Andorra, where the score is still Andorra 0, Russia 1. So Watson's telling us it's still 1-0 to Russia in Andorra. The graphic comes up and it says 2-0. The score isn't 2-0 at that point, but the graphics cocked it up.
I know, yeah. That must have just been like, oh God, have I messed this up? Or something else wrong with it? But no, it's okay. It's still just 1-0.
Bit of confusion there, but at Wembley, one thing is for certain. England are back.
Richards, here's Beckham. Crouch waiting in the centre. Crouch, surely! Yes! Peter Crouch has done it for England. It's 2-2. And the big man keeps up his phenomenal scoring record. But guess who supplied the cross? David Beckham. Is this the goal that saves England from humiliation and possibly sends them to the European Championship finals? Peter Crouch got it down on his chest, cracked it in. 14 goals in 24 internationals. Thank you very much. It's level.
You can't understate the quality of a Beckham cross. Absolutely.
Mika Richards intercepts a pass in the middle of the park and pushes it forward to David Beckham. It's a trademark cross from Sexy Becks into Crouch, who's free in the box, chests the ball and smashes it in the bottom corner before it hits the ground. Wembley erupts and McClaren drinks more water.
Just water obsessed in this game, isn't he? Like, just wants it to stay away from his body unless he's putting it inside himself. But
it was early.
And by this point, I mean, like, Motson is having a fit here. He is running the David Beckham fan club, and he's pretty much just given the goal to Beckham, even though Crouch has scored it. He's just going on about the ball into it so much, which is brilliant.
It's
but
a brilliant.
just
I was
like,
just going to say,
wow.
what a great ball from Beckham, and Crouch does so well. Really
Yeah.
composed finish, really making the most of those gangly limbs.
Yeah, and the first time cross from Beckham as well, like spinning the ball into Crouch, not kind of that normal curl technique that he used to use, like is amazing. And like I say, good controlled finish from Crouch. But I'm almost certain, without listening to it for a little while, like Motson was like, but the pass from Beckham.
I honestly think without the Beckham factor, because he's been able to kind of turn the crowd back on side, I don't think that England would have got this far.
No, I agree with that, definitely. Yeah, he kind of like that, him coming on just changed everything really, with it just like, again, more the idea of Beckham being better than what Beckham does, even though he comes on and he's great and kind of that experience and quality that you ever needed to. And this has to be one of the best atmospheres ever at New Wembley.
Yeah, it really is.
Like the noise level really can't be overstated of how loud it is, and it's fever pitch of a crowd. And with what's happening in the game so far, all the emotion, you think England just kind of like end up personalitying their way through the game. But
Yeah.
it's just still that you just never know, because they've not played well. They've not done no one's really played well. The pitch has been bad. They've got a few good decisions. And you just think right now, for some calm heads, but like no one is calm. No one's allowed to be calm in this game.
As it stands, England are going to Euro 2008 in Austria and Switzerland. We even see the table to prove that to us. So sod off Andorra, you useless bunch of clowns. We don't need your help at this point.
Yeah, then the table comes up. Motson's like, that's the way it looks. That's the way it is. Like it's like a pop song or something. Like he's introducing it on top of the pops.
Steve McClaren and the Englands. That's the way it looks. That's the way it is. In a number 60. Number 66, it should be. Eh?
Yeah.
The game continues, and I do have to say, Croatia have really improved since England's equaliser.
Not that they were bad either before. They've just got even better.
Yeah, exactly. They're not like pulling England apart, but they are under they're playing like they're under no pressure at all, and they're happy to just keep it and keep prodding away at England. And that's what they do. And then this happens.
Niko Kovac. Petric. Oh, he nearly got Frandrich in there. Petric again. Oh, he scored! Extraordinary! It's the substitute Petric with the deadly left foot. And Croatia have gone 3-2 up. And England may be out after all. Something out of nothing from Mladen Petric, who'd only been on the field 5 minutes. Prandrich, the other substitute, makes it. He fires a shot, it goes across Carson Mark. It's 3-2.
I don't think Carson sees this until very late. Comes past Sol Campbell.
And just like that, we are completely and utterly fucked.
Terrible. Just utterly terrible. England have been desperately clearing the ball for around 90 seconds. Like there is like a period of pressure when the goal comes to, and they're just waiting for Croatia to just come back to, and they've just like there's 15 minutes left at this point, and they're already just booting the ball away.
Yeah,
again, no calmness about it all, and it's a pretty bloody good goal at this point as well. So the ball's played to Petric, who's probably as far as like Crenshaw was for the first one, maybe a bit closer. But it's a bit wider, and he kind of lashes it left-footed across Carson and its far post. And on replays, I think Carson's like a bit unsighted. And while it's not like an error from him, it'll be devastated if that's gone in. Like it's just like snuck up on him almost.
It's a savable shot in theory, isn't it? And you just think, oh my God, McClaren looks absolutely beaten as they show him on the bench, telling Darren Bent to warm up. At that point, I really felt the presence of Graham Taylor in the room. Like there is, that would have been Ian Wright for him back in the day, wouldn't it? Probably.
Yeah, and I guess they didn't mention that because that one technically didn't go down to the last day with Taylor either. But it is that thing of just like, oh, for Christ's sake, this is like as if everything couldn't have gone any worse now.
Do you think that do you trust McClaren to react to this? I mean, he's not
No,
really been,
I'll stop you right there. No,
he's not
Steve
really
has
been.
not done anything
go-
to deserve my trust up to this point.
Oh, there you go. Doesn't get more biting than that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, we made one chance. We scored 2 goals, but made one chance. So I just can't see us getting a goal back. And I kind of remember
Yeah.
watching this as a kid and thinking I'd always been. I remember when, as a really young kid, watching England versus Romania in the Euros with Kevin Keegan when we got knocked out, and I was like, but they tried really hard. But like at this point, I was probably 14, 15. I don't know. Time is beyond a thing at this point. But like I
Yeah.
remember thinking they actually don't deserve this, so they deserve what they get at this point.
Yeah, it's been terrible. I mean, like you say, McClaren just goes over and starts talking to Darren Bent. I mean, what the hell is he even saying to him at this point? Of all right, just go on and just try and score. Like,
I
no, there's
know.
just nothing left. Like, it feels like it never felt at this point that England would be getting back into it. Like, that goal was such a sucker punch in terms of they were trying to hold on. They somehow got back into the game. And that happened. And you were never confident they were going to score.
Yeah. Can I shock you? Despite slagging off Andorra earlier, I actually really like Andorra, and I
Yeah.
want them to equalise against Russia because they're still just one behind despite the lying scorecard earlier.
And I want them to score. I would love that. Yeah, but that's the last hope, isn't it? You hope Andorra can do something against Russia. I mean, that's when you are absolutely scraping the barrel. And speaking of which, Darren Bent comes on and he is so clean compared to everybody else. Like he is like everyone else has been caked in shit. He is like fresh out the box, Bent.
Yeah,
Like it is crazy.
box fresh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think England are going to get a chance in these last 10 minutes, even with him on. I'd like to give a special shout out at this point to our defence, who to a man have been absolutely shocking.
Awful, just totally awful. And then, like as we said, Croatia bring on 19-year-old Ivan Rakitic for the goal scorer, and Olic gets boos all around Wembley as well. Which is like, well, he's just
You just
kind of
love
doing
it,
his
though.
job. Yeah,
Yeah,
you would
exactly.
if you're like you've already qualified, you've stopped this like big nation from qualifying yourself. You just be like, fine, this is great.
Ben does get a chance actually, but he slightly skews a half volley inside the penalty area and it hits the roof of the net.
What happened to David Nugent? Where's he? Where's Andy
where's-
Johnson? Bent's just come back in here as well. I'm not saying like that Bent's worse than them or better than them, but it's just like we've been through it. The tombola of strikers. I mean, just God, shoot me now.
88 minutes. John Motson, say something, Mark. Say something. Lawrenson, I can't.
But he says, say something. Like I imagine, like he's got like his like the mute on, just like Mark, say something. Like just anything. I don't know what to do.
I know. 89 minutes and McClaren is necking more water. Oh my God. 91 minutes and England get a corner and Motson says, Beckham, please. Seconds later, from that corner, Croatia have the ball in England's penalty area. England somehow managed to clear it, and before you know it, the final whistle goes.
Everybody's gone forward for England. Away by Cernar, Rakitic. And England are out of the European Championships. Unless Andorra score against Russia in the next 3 minutes. England players standing, lying in disbelief. Steve McClaren shepherded away. Croatia celebrate what for them has to be seen as a memorable victory. And Wembley is
And that, my friend, is 96 or 7% of the way through an Odyssey. That's how you do it. England.
That's how you nearly end an Odyssey, isn't it?
Unless Andorra score against Russia in the next 3 minutes, England are not going to Euro 2008. That
And
really,
they don't. And they
yeah.
don't, by the way. Yeah, they just don't.
that is it. For the first time since the World Cup 1994, England have failed to reach a major tournament. Steve McClaren becomes known as the Wally with the Brolly and cements his status as the new Graham Taylor.
Yeah, I like I said, I think the Wally with the Brolly gets talked about so much because that's such a good pun. Like it was just an easy thing to like tar him with rather than just I can't really go into why he's been crap as England manager, but he's not even manly enough to just let the water hit all of his body. Like
Exactly.
there's definitely a thing about that where people think they failed if they've got umbrellas if you're like a certain kind of person.
Yeah,
But
the Daily Mail headline: Great leaders inspire their men to glory. Steve
leaders.
McClaren will be remembered as a Wally with a brolly. So there you go.
I mean, like you said, I say great pun, but that's it's just the first thing everyone thinks about Steve McClaren, isn't it? It just is.
Yeah, yeah. England's fans' boos turn to stunned silence as Croatia celebrate with their fans, and they really do celebrate, and they really do deserve it, and they really are a really good footballing nation, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe people were kind of like because I didn't think at the time that they were anything special. It was just okay, England lost the game over there, the top of the group, whatever. But during the second half, Motson says something interesting where he says that this is one of the most seminal halves of football ever seen at Wembley and will make or break careers. I think we can look back in hindsight and say that absolutely none of those England players even think about this anymore. Like
Yeah.
none of their careers were impacted with this, were
Scott
they?
Carson? Probably not, though.
No, in fairness, Scott Carson, you would say so, but like he's talking really about your Gerard Lampard, Campbell
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
or whoever it is. And
Because
you think,
qualification wasn't on Carson when he played
no,
one
like
game, which was the last one.
yeah, it had gone severely wrong at that point already. But yeah, probably the worst night at New Wembley ever.
Yeah, without a
Like
doubt.
I can't really think of anything that was ever this bad, really, again so far.
No, no. But let's look at the aftermath then. In the studio, first of all, I believe Steve McClaren went for a massive piss. He must have the amount of water that man drank, whether through awkwardness or pretending he was cool after we equalised.
Yeah.
Lineker says it's a sad indication of where your country is when you're relying on Andorra, as the news
Correct.
comes through that Russia have beaten Andorra and therefore made it official that England aren't going to the tournament. Right, he looks gutted as you'd expect. He's always the man you want there when things go wrong to kind of put a spin on things. Where he says, "We hoped and prayed for a lifeline, we got it, and we threw it away."
They're all trying to like be quite wistful with their comments. Like Shearer beforehand was being like, yeah, we've been handed something, we can't let it go. But they're all trying to be like quite Churchillian, but it's just like
Yeah.
I know they've got to say something because they're on TV and they've got to be slightly like have a point. But it's just like, yes, we've thrown it away, we get it. Like stuff like this, I can't ever imagine who watches this kind of like
Oh no,
TV
it's
afterwards.
straight off,
It
isn't
just
it?
goes straight off. Think about anything else in the world now.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely. It doesn't take long until the tensions in the studio turn to Steve McClaren. Shearer says he wouldn't be surprised if the FA ended his term, but he doesn't think he'll resign. Before Alan Hansen wraps things up with, it doesn't get much lower than this.
Amazed that's not been used as like another 3 Lions.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, God, yeah. For context going forward, Croatia, who qualified, lest we forget, for Euro 2008, would go out in the quarterfinals of that tournament, losing on penalties to Turkey. What could have been, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember us watching that game together, and I think Croatia were going through with like a last minute goal. Then Turkey scored another last minute goal to take it to penalties, and it was just
Yes.
one of those, and it was definitely one of like, yeah, sod Croatia after what they did to us. This was the start of bloody Croatia.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Russia, who held on against the might of Andorra, would reach the semi-finals of that tournament, losing to eventual tournament winners Spain 3-0. That's bloody good going.
Yeah,
Difficult
again,
group to
Russia.
get out of, the qualifying group was.
Yeah, it was like the two teams that got out of it in the end were really good sides. So you do kind of just go fair play, but the chances that England had to not be in this position were just stark.
Yeah. It would take just one day for the FA to decide that Steve McClaren could no longer continue to be England manager, ending his reign after just 18 games, which was the shortest ever full-time England manager stint, only to be beaten by Sam Allardyce. We'd safe to say he'll probably hold that record forever.
You'd think so, unless an England manager dies before they actually take charge, wouldn't they?
Phil Cope.
Yeah, exactly. Phil Cope.
Then FA chairman Jeff Thompson said this: like every England fan, We are bitterly disappointed that we have failed to qualify. I know Steve feels that disappointment more than anyone. Of course, we have no divine right to play in any major tournament, but it is quite right that qualification is expected. I'd like to thank Steve for the work he has done. His commitment to the job cannot be questioned, and I wish him the best for the future. Yeah, cold. Oh, well, he gave him more credit than maybe he
He
deserved.
deserved, yeah.
Yeah, McClaren's response, well, not response, I think it was in the same press release, sorry. He said, first of all, can I say this is one of the saddest days of my career? One of,
Yeah,
say it's the saddest, Steve, come on, please.
yeah.
18 months ago, this is when he was appointed, that was the proudest day of my career, and I was honoured to be the England head coach for 18 months. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
I'd have enjoyed every minute of this. We've hated it.
It's a sad day to have been relieved of my duties, but I understand the decision of the FA. It is not an impossible job. It is a huge challenge, but it is also an honour, and I would not regard it as a poisoned chalice at all. I believed I was up to the job when I took it, and I still believe that now, but obviously you judge by results. I said right at the start I would live and die by results, and results haven't gone my way. In that sense, we have failed. I take full responsibility for that, and I have paid the price. So I love that he said impossible job, poison chalice as well is in there.
Absolutely. He goes, and in a sense, we failed. Like in every sense, there is not one like reigning, like there's not a player he brought through that ever
No.
went on to be this like incredible footballer really for England. There's not
No.
really any standout moments, like any real good times from McClaren. They're all just like just beat the bad teams, which
Yeah.
they did some of the time, and they
So-
lost to all the good teams pretty much. Like there's not a defining thing which you could pin your hat on and go, well, at least we had that.
Yeah. Fabio Capello was appointed as England manager the following month. How's about that? That's a quick turnaround, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really weird. The fact that it took about 4 years for the FA to whittle down their manager list to McClaren. Well, Scolari, then McClaren anyway.
Yeah. I mean, Steve McClaren then. So what's next for him? He heads off to the Netherlands where he would win the Eredivisie title with FC Twente. Wow. Who would have
Yeah.
thought that? I remember that at the time. That was a great little comeback story because they're not a fancy Dutch team, are they?
No, not at all. But slightly less wow was pretty much every other managerial stint that he had after this. 61-year-old has since held coaching roles at Wolfsburg, Nottingham Forest, Derby, Newcastle, and QPR, and is currently the assistant to Manchester United boss Eric Ten Hag. So, kind of everything he'd done as a manager. The real great stuff is at Middlesbrough and then at Twente. Like you can't really pin another thing on going, what a job he did there, really.
No. Right then, we are really close to the end. Can I get your kind of overall? You're probably too tired to even respond to this, but
I
what
think
are your
everyone is.
overall thoughts on the McClaren era?
Just, like I said, just no bright sparks at all. Like it was. I was thinking, was it the wrong appointment? Like after we know everything about it now, we've come to the end of it. We kind of said at the start we'd have probably both picked other managers, maybe, but would another manager have done better in other circumstances? I'd like to have thought Martin O'Neill maybe could have got a better tune out of some of the England players. Kirbishley,
Sam
I don't know.
Allardyce.
You'd probably say Allardyce would have put away the worst teams. I don't
Yeah.
think the results probably would have been too much different against the better teams, but I mean, it wasn't like England's defence were the problem for a lot of, amazingly, after looking at that performance, they weren't like the problem throughout the entire qualifying campaign. I think they only conceded in 3 games in total throughout the whole thing. So it's not like Allardyce would have been like struggled, oh, I've got to get these guys defensively good. But you do still think he'd have had enough about him to find a way past the real bad teams. So
I think that we could have done with a manager who was a bit more self-assured. I feel like McClaren quite often tried to play into the populist opinion, whether that was dropping a player such as David Beckham or bringing in players such as this raft of kind of, I've said it kind of earlier, championship level strikers. And
yeah,
you could have done with someone who gone, right, this is the team. And obviously there's injuries throughout. And he really, really wasn't. I mean, we barely mentioned Wayne Rooney throughout all of this. And if we were saying basically, where is he? You could have done with a manager who said, this is the team, and kind of I don't know. It feels silly as I say, but I know the players.
A bit more experience in it as well. Again, this was only his second full-time managerial job. It doesn't matter how long he's been like there is like the second in command.
Yeah,
This just wasn't. He didn't have enough experience to know how to get himself out of a hole like this. Because I guess at Middlesbrough it was okay. He was never really going to lose his job at Middlesbrough. So
yeah, yeah.
really, because they were just happy being in the Premier League. He obviously won a trophy with them, got to a final, but then really managing these big players as well. Like, why wasn't Wayne Rooney performing? You know, probably lots of reasons, but he was doing well at Man United at the time. You know, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, they were all going through kind of the peaks of their career. So why was it so wrong? And this is the overall thing with England and this generation, isn't it? But kind of you look at what the players were doing under McClaren here, and you know we see what happens with Capello and Sven and all that. But you find that if this is kind of like the worst thing that they could have done, like they might as well not have had like a coach at this point. It felt like at times because it was just people going on the pitch and all of the again we've said it before with England teams at times all the skills just drained out of them.
Yeah, I think in mitigation he had it tough with injuries.
He did.
That's definitely true. He wasn't helped by goalkeepers chucking it in their own net quite often.
Two of them, yeah. Now two of them, yeah.
Yeah, but you're talking probably about 4 howlers across the qualification, which isn't great. He just didn't help himself. I think the personality side of it as well really shone through where he didn't know what he was. He didn't know if he was I can be angry, Steve McClaren, or I'm just here to like help the players have a good time and that's how I'm going to get the best out of them. Felt like he kind of shifted one way or the other. Even Graham Taylor wasn't really that type of guy. He kind of always was. He always had conviction in what he wanted to do. Taylor, it was just that like it was wild, crazy conviction. Whereas I feel like McClaren never really 100% was sure on anything that he did.
And there was never a style to it either. At least you could say with Allardyce, which is the thing that will come on one day when we talk about Allardyce's England time. You at least thought England would have a plan and they're going to play a certain way. And you know what's like that McClaren way for England? It was kind of wingers getting the ball into strikers, but that was such as like a short-lived thing, and almost like an already outdated thing as well. Like you've got Mourinho who kind of brought the 4-3-3 into English football, you know, and then it was all about ultra defensive in the Premier League in the big games with people like Benitez coming in. You know, Ferguson had learnt a lot as well around this time, and you're just thinking what they should be doing so much more than that. And it is like the fear of dropping certain players. It took a long time to drop Lampard until he came up with a system that kind of worked. But then as soon as he had to deviate from that system a little bit, it just went right the way back to this isn't working.
Can I ask you is there a highlight, you know, without taking the rest of it into context almost, is there a highlight moment from this whole shit show that we can kind of put down as the McClaren moment?
I would say the thing that I enjoyed most was the picture of Steve McClaren on the front of the FA's magazine for the program, whatever it was, with the "Let's cut the shit, guys. I'm in town. We've got a proper manager." That was probably the thing I've enjoyed most.
I would say Beckham 17 would be mine. That it's kind of independent to McClaren, but like because of his stupidness, for want of a better word. I'm very tired, so I can't think of a better word than that. But that was a positive-ish narrative for us to cling on to throughout this. I think without that, it would have been a lot more of a miserable record. It
was more the David Beckham had seemingly gone, and then actually had enough about him to come back, and it's more the story of him coming back and in the end winning Fabio Capello over at Real Madrid, and then coming back into the England team for like another ride of getting England to the next World Cup as well. Like he plays a big part in that too. And yeah, it was nice seeing that Beckham kind of came back and proved people wrong. Definitely.
I would also say that kind of undermined McClaren as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's totally independent. And like McClaren wouldn't have wanted that to happen. That could only happen if things were going bad.
Right then, one more question for you, Nick, as we end this Odyssey. Was this England?
No.
Wow.
I'm going to say no, this wasn't England. Because England always dig themselves out of shit to make a tournament, and they didn't do it here. This was like new depths, and this is why it still doesn't feel right that it all didn't actually come okay and England go to a tournament and then go out earlier than they should.
Yeah.
This is too early and too bleak. And like you say, it's not to not even have highlights of an era.
Yeah. This should have been like the first hour of a podcast into how England were knocked out of Euro 2008. You know
But
what I mean?
we've done is we've stretched it over 4 podcasts.
Because there wasn't that end in sight. But there you go. I don't think there's much else to say. Steve McClaren, best of luck to your chap. But you definitely go in the bad stuff category when it comes to England managers.
Oh God, we were going to do the bad stuff. See, it's just wiped our mind so much. Like the good stuff and bad stuff. Steve McClaren. I don't even know if we put anything in the good stuff category. We beat Andorra a lot at home, I remember. But there was all those games of New England, maybe.
The picture that you said, the McLaren's Way picture, and the first game against Greece, that was good stuff. We kind of discarded the game after that.
Yeah, well, there was nothing else. It was just all going in the bad stuff column. I felt bad bringing it up.
Well, let's hope that next time we're looking at a more positive England story. But for now, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you very much, mate. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me. Darling, there's no danger.